Please welcome the wickedly talented one and only Adele Fuzzy.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth!
There's a mistake. Moonlight. Best picture.
Okay, we're here.
La 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 la.
Me.
That's what Nixon should have done.
Yeah, that's basically how the movie opens.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hello, good morning. Welcome back to another episode of the Waffle Press Retrospective. The failed award contenders. We're back again. It's episode 2 of season 2 of failed award contenders. We're talking about another Oliver Stone movie.
Yes, we are.
So you know what that means.
It means I pulled a gun on
pain.
Diego and
I'm your host
to do this movie.
A little bit, but that's okay. The gun's still not pointed on me anymore. I'm not just saying that.
Also, there's no way
I'm your host, Diego Crespo.
I couldn't get the 3 shots off quick enough. It's physically impossible.
Oh my god.
Hey,
That's my co-host, Mike Garingo.
Yes, they're releasing new documents in the JFK thing.
I hate my life.
Conspiracy theorists are saying it totally validates them, and other people are saying there's actually not a lot there. But
Oliver Stone. Okay, well, let me get this out of the way. There's a lot to say about Oliver Stone, a bad person. We talk about it in JFK. I don't want to just repeat everything we said in that episode because that was also 6 hours
7
long.
hours of that episode.
I would genuinely encourage it because I think it's a good episode, even though I tried killing myself in the middle of it. But like I think we covered a lot of ground on JFK to the point where I was like, do we need to do Nixon? Then I remember watching it last year, and I was like, yeah, I probably do. So there's a lot to say about Oliver Stone, the man. Go listen to that if you're curious about our thoughts on that.
Statistically, most people have listened to the JFK episode for some fucking reason.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Like, yeah, what the fuck happened there?
This is the one time I will reference the CinemaSins people in anything resembling a positive light. Is that when they came out like a while back and they were like, we tried to hit like these marks for like the parody stuff. They call themselves parody, even though they completely mean what they're doing. Between like 5 to 10 minutes, right? Their old videos. And then they realized like the longer the episodes were, or the uploads were, like it didn't matter. People were still tuning in. So they just stopped giving a fuck. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're not going to go for 6 hours today, but we're not going to.
We're going to go as long as
we're not going to be silenced.
Yeah, we will be silent because we, Diego, are the silent majority, the hardworking Americans that don't go out to peace marches. That they stay quiet. They want things to fade good.
Oliver Stone is out of his fucking mind.
But Nixon was calm and cool, so it balances things out.
I'm watching it in the background again right now.
Same.
I have it on mute. I'm watching a sequence that takes place towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot, like, Oliver Stone, like, we're not joking. Like, he's straight up, like, out of his goddamn mind.
Yes.
It's the sequence with the flashbacks and the crossfades, and Anthony Hopkins is...
Wait, Diego. It's the scene with the flashbacks and the crossfades. So
yeah, I'm like, I tried explaining the specific sequence, and I was like, no, this is just the whole movie. We're just going to talk about it. Matt, what did you think about Nixon? Let's just start here.
I do love this movie, honestly. I do love this movie. I mean, but it's insane. Like, what do I say?
Yeah, I was like, is there even like enough energy to talk about it? Like after JFK, like how do you match that? And it's like, well, I don't know if it matches it, but it's a different like insanity.
Yeah, but all right. I actually had this discussion with my dad after we watched it the other night. After we watched Nixon, and I was just like, it's insane that he made this after JFK. Mm-hmm. Like, think about it. Like, imagine like you are Oliver Stone, but like a good version of Oliver Stone. You make JFK, which basically goes, there's a shadow government running the whole world, right? Like,
yeah,
that, and you don't make JFK out of any sort of dramatic interest. You make it because you genuinely believe you're exposing something that like this that you genuinely believe you are fighting a good and noble cause to bring to light that the government did in fact kill JFK. And this is what you sincerely believe. And then you go and you make more movies that are just movies after it. That's insane. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, imagine coming out where I'm just like, oh hey, look, I discovered accidentally that the Illuminati's actually real, and I put it in a movie of mine. Okay, now I'm gonna go make a conventional biopic about Barack Obama. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, how do you not just like you are the JFK guy now? Like, that's your thing. And instead he hangs in there for like the rest of the decade, kind of making. I mean, he makes a fucking sports movie after JFK.
At the Any Given
Any
Sunday,
Given
right?
Sunday, which is another like just psychotic movie. I mean, I don't know if there's a JFK movie that isn't psychotic. I mean, if there's an Oliver Stone movie that isn't psychotic.
Yeah, I was gonna say JFK. Well, you know who's doing the next JFK movie, right? James Gray.
Oh yeah, he is doing something, right?
Yeah. Like that. I didn't talk about it, but I saw Armageddon Time, and I thought it was great.
Armageddon Time's really
I
solid.
like James Gray a lot.
It kind of
Yeah.
wasn't for me, but I really liked it.
Yeah, it's good director.
I did not realize when I this is my review I posted, but like I did not realize that when it was called Armageddon Time, it literally meant Ronald Reagan. I did not realize that going into that movie.
Well, here, James Gray seems to be the polar opposite ethically and emotionally from Oliver Stone. Because Oliver Stone is Oliver Stone, and James Gray will speak so eloquently about his beliefs about what's wrong with capitalist endeavors in this country, and he's referring to people as capitalist lemmings when they're arguing about the box office.
Well, that was what was kind of not to derail your point, but like what's been fascinating. Armageddon Time kind of felt a little teed up to be like a Best Picture nominee, right? Mm-hmm. And all the press he is doing feel like he's trying to not get nominated for Best Picture. Like he's being really aggressive in like every interview, and I kind of love it. But
I love it too. And I if it got nominated, there have been significantly worse nominations in recent years. I'd be happy for him.
I'd be happy too. I'm not complaining. But
yeah.
What you're saying is, does Oliver Stone have a portrait of James Gray in his office? And he occasionally looks at it and go like, when they look at you, they see what they want to be. When they look at me, they see what they are.
I don't know if I love this movie. I think I'm just too angry about like the state of the world to fully be as excited about it as I was when I first saw it last year. I mean, maybe angry is not the right word. I think tired. I think
Everyone's
I'm
really
angry.
tired right now.
Yeah. So just right now, at this point in time, I don't have that energy. This is a fantastically directed movie.
Yeah.
It's just such bullshit.
It's insane. It is truly ridiculous. It is one of the most ridiculous movies ever made.
I don't remember if we said this specifically, but I would argue these are basically exploitation films marketing themselves as political dramas. And Oliver Stone does genuinely believe the bullshit, right?
Yeah.
But I think for me, like the the beauty of them is that they're just exploitative nonsense.
Yeah.
I get a kick out of them.
You're probably right. What's weird is that he thinks there's like how sincere he thinks the movies are. Because this isn't odd. Like, all right, Richard Milhouse Nixon, the poster child for disgraced president, right? Like he's a joke. Even kids know Nixon sucked, right?
Yeah.
This is like an oddly sympathetic movie about arguably the most evil president we've ever had.
And again, this is a point that we talked about with JFK, but Oliver Stone seems to have his anger directed at half things that do exist, like the military-industrial complex, and the other half is like, but that's too fucking crazy. So it's got to be more than just these tangible evils. There has to be a conglomerate or something behind the scenes, and it's like
the
no.
funniest fucking scene in this movie might be when they're trying to convince him to run for president again, and he's like, "Well, Kennedy, no one's gonna beat him in '62," and like, what if Kennedy doesn't run in '62?
It's ridiculous. Oh my god! And then right now, I'm just watching a scene where Nixon's signing a document, and then it cuts, flashes to the statue of Abraham Lincoln, and it is incredible. It's like such power in these images, and it's like, for what?
Yeah.
For fucking what?
For what? Oh, Nixon was kind of a complicated dude, which is ultimately what this movie says. Like, yeah, Nixon, a little mixed up. Like, and it's like, no fucking shit. Like,
I know, it's the greatest shame of my hometown of Whittier, California, is that President Nixon went here.
Hey.
Is from here, went to college here. There used to be a big mural behind. Yeah, I'm not even joking. Whittier people will remember this. Behind what is, I believe, still a barber shop. It was like, but it wasn't like on the main street. It's funny. Like, there's the main street, right? The next street over. It's still a busy street, but not nearly as busy as the main street of Greenleaf in Uptown Whittier. But there was a big mural of Nixon until like 2 years ago. It finally got covered up, and I don't know why that was. People don't like him. Even conservatives don't like Nixon.
well, no, there is a large faction of conservatives that defend Nixon.
You know what? That doesn't surprise
Like,
me.
fucking, I think they kind of bring it up in this movie. They only show it for a second, but fucking Bob Dole wept at Nixon's funeral. Yeah. And said he was the most misunderstood man in American history. Like, can you imagine for Nixon?
Incredible.
Like,
You know what? No, because Whittier is a conservative city. It was started by the Quakers.
The Quakers, old Quaker
it was a Quaker
attitude.
town. Yeah, and then it became really fucking conservative. The mayor of the town, Joe Vinatieri, you piece of shit, is a hardcore conservative. Within like 3 months of the pandemic, he wasn't wearing a mask, and he was trying to encourage people to like reopen businesses and shit. Like, piece of shit. The city council is run by pieces of shit. One of these fucking bitches was at the Capitol on January 6th.
All right.
So yeah, so fuck off. Horrible people at city council. You all deserve to not be here.
All right, so Nixon's starting to look like a moderate coming out of the
Yeah, I know. compared to this shit. Yeah, so all of you sons of bitches, they probably are the ones you're referring to as the people who like defend Richard Nixon.
Well, because the common, if you want to like do the like textbook like one sentence summary of what I would think the average white American thinks of Nixon. I'm gonna do white just because I don't think other people really give a shit, frankly. But the story on Nixon is that he was a brilliant politician. He was a good president, which some people say, but his paranoia like ultimately destroyed himself. Right? That is the, I think, very basic take on Nixon. Not how I feel about Nixon, but also arguably not what this movie doesn't disagree with that take. This movie feels really oddly sympathetic towards Nixon. And I guess that makes sense if you have made JFK before this, right?
Yeah.
Like, I guess that's the only way you're going to end up with a sympathetic Nixon. But,
yeah, it's. Yeah, so I didn't realize how angry I still am at the fucking city council. Half of this is just gonna be me like berating them now because all this fucking bullshit. But let's dial back before I have an aneurysm and exit this realm of existence before people who should. Let's talk about the cast. Anthony Hopkins plays Richard Nixon. Do you think he does a good job?
I do. He doesn't. I brought it up. He doesn't really sound like Nixon, right? Like,
yeah.
And he's doing a voice. Like, it's not. He doesn't sound like Anthony Hopkins either.
Mm-hmm.
It's the right Nixon performance for this Nixon movie.
I think he's kind of terrific.
Yeah, I like him in it. I really like him.
Yeah, I mean, it's Anthony Hopkins. Like, I could go on a fucking tirade right now about what a great actor he is. You all know it. We all know it.
But it's
like,
also,
you don't need
it's
that.
one of those things where, like, if I brush up against it, it's more the writing that occasionally I brush up against.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's just him being like, where it's like, I can't remember what the line is, but one guy's like, oh, he's trying to bluff you. And he's like, yeah, well, I own the fucking casino. Like, it's like, okay. Like, but, yeah, I think he does a good job. It is kind of a, like, in the mid-'90s, this must have been the most obvious choice in history to make Anthony Hopkins play Nixon.
Yeah, maybe.
It's like height of his powers. He kind of has a Nixon head. Like,
yeah.
They try,
now,
I don't know if you could tell, they give him the Nixon nose occasionally in the movie. He wore a prosthetic nose, but sometimes he has it on and sometimes he doesn't. Which I don't know why that is. But
I don't know either. You know what? To the film's credit, I didn't really notice that.
You only notice it sometimes. And you have to be looking for it, too, which I don't think most people are really looking for it.
No.
It might have been more obvious if it had been on constantly, but, yeah. Again, Anthony Hopkins, though he's such a good actor, the problem is he makes Nixon a little more sympathetic than he probably should be, but...
Yeah, this is a fantasy. This is an utter fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
You know who maybe wasn't the ideal choice to play the character they're playing in this film?
Mm-hmm.
At least for me, as Bob Hoskins popping up as J. Edgar Hoover.
Yeah, what the fuck is that?
I don't know, but I miss Bob Hoskins. What a
Bob
fucking
Hoskins.
terrific actor.
It's fun to just see him in this. Because you're like, holy shit, Bob Hoskins. And he sounds like Eddie Valiant from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And he's playing J. Edgar Hoover.
Nixon's a tune!
Yeah. He does sound like exactly like that.
Yeah.
Which, hey, I mean, not the worst. It's also kind of hysterical. Like, it's darkly hysterical that, like, even in this movie, Oliver Stone found a way to get, like, gay panicky.
Yeah.
Like, which, like, is one of, like, him, the J. Edgar Hoover scene is, like, one of the most disgusting things put on camera. Like, oh my god. Hey. Remember when Leonardo played J. Edgar Hoover?
I do.
In the movie with the worst old age makeup of all time.
It's up there. You know, I'm a Prometheus defender now. I think that one's still top dog.
Prometheus look lifelike.
I don't know about that. I'm not gonna fight you on that one too much, but it's pretty bad.
You're at least like, it's the future. Maybe people look fucked up. Like, you can kind of like slide. Whereas,
and he is supposed to be like 100 years old or something like that, right?
Yeah,
like
he was in like cryostasis or whatever the fuck it was. Like, what weird choices people were making in the 2000s.
I know. It's what a fucking trip. I almost was like, I wonder what Oliver Stone would have done in the 2000s if he was still making movies, but he was. No one just gives a shit about him anymore.
How about Paul Sorvino as Henry Kissinger?
When the Kissinger stuff pops up, I forgot that husk has been alive for 99 years.
I know.
99 years.
He's still out there. And people will still admit to, like, yeah, I got Kissinger's advice recently. Like, what are you doing?
He turns 100 in May 27th.
I am not going to comment, but here's what's really fucked up. He outlived Paul Sorvino.
God, what a fuck.
Who died recently.
Yeah. So,
why is Paul Sorvino at the Shrek Forever After premiere in his Wikipedia picture? Was he in that?
Wait, what? I guess that's going in the thumbnail. Hang on, let me write that down.
Yeah. Guess what? No, he wasn't. It says Paul Sorvino at the Tribeca Film Festival. So I guess Shrek premiered there. But
well, like now, like the people that get invited to premieres, just like influencers and stuff like that. And that I'm not shitting on anyone. I'm just saying, like, they cultivate a certain look to make the movie premieres look like sexier and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't always used to be like that. And I'm sure they tried to, but there was enough like disparate forces in the universe that eventually you would just get really funny stuff like Paul Sorvino at Shrek Forever After.
Yeah, or like Paul Giamatti at like the release of the GameCube or something.
Yeah, or Adam Sandler at any one of his premieres.
Yeah,
just Google Adam Sandler premiere, and you're gonna see pictures of him, and you're like, did he just wake up? Like, it's fantastic.
Exactly. But Paul Sorvino as Kissinger is a choice.
It is. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say it's a good choice.
I like it, but it's also like you got the most stereotypical Italian man to play the most stereotypical German geopolitical consultant. Like, Kissinger looks like if Dr. Strangelove could walk. Like,
what did I say here? I think if you take this movie and the late great Albert Pune's not so great Captain America film, there is a strange recurring element of avoiding talk of German or Nazism, and you just make Italians the bad guys.
Yeah, well, that was, but part of the Albert Pune thing was they filmed in Italy, right?
Yeah.
So, like, there's that. This is Oliver Stone, the height of his powers, and he's like, get me Paul Sorvino.
Maybe that's it, but just, again, it's like, I don't want to just repeat points we talked about in JFK, and obviously we're not just doing that, but, like, again, that's one of those things where it's like, his weird conservative politics weren't always outright just conservative, even when they were, like, fucking bizarre and strange. And it leads to weird choices like the casting of Henry Kissinger. But again, I do think it is a good choice for this movie. Unfortunately.
He's having everyone in this movie seems to be having fun doing voices.
I mean, who doesn't like doing voices,
Yeah. Mr. President, I believe we can find a diplomatic solution. Why Kissinger also sounds evil. Like, everything about Kissinger is like bad vibes all around, and he's like the fucking other Washington Monument. Like, he's just always there.
Yeah, he's a Bond villain.
Like, but the whole like Nixon cabinet just sounds comically evil, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you have James Woods, who's also evil in real life, as H.R. Haldeman. J.T. Walsh as John Ehrlichman. Powers Booth as General Alexander Haig, Mr. I'm in charge, Alexander Haig, who we brought up recently. And then you got, like, Ed Harris as E. Howard Hunt. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, who are these fuckers?
Well, hey, Ed Harris, what's he up to? Because that's another dude who's, like, a terrific actor who was just in Westworld and not a lot else recently.
Yeah, I think he was mostly doing Westworld, and I also hear he's one of those guys who's like a little prickly to work with.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Not a surprise. Maybe he should work with James Cameron again.
He was in Top Gun Maverick.
Oh, yeah, he was.
For like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And he was like, "You're a Maverick." Like,
yeah.
That's like his scene.
And then everyone else is like, Oh, that's why he's a maverick.
Do you know he shows up in the movie Masked and Anonymous, the Bob Dylan movie, in blackface?
What? What? When was
When
that?
when I say blackface, I don't mean like he's playing a black person. I mean he's in like minstrel blackface.
Oh. Well, you know.
Is that a failed awards contender?
Oh, we're not gonna find out. Oh my God, he was in Mother. I forgot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's Man. That's the name of his character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking movie.
Yeah, he's Man. And then Michelle Pfeiffer is Woman. And then Brian Gleason and Donald Gleason are son and younger brother. Do you think the film is discussing the Bible? In reference to
I wonder what the whale represents.
sin?
Anyway.
Oh, and he was also in Geostorm, which, if you love 90s schlock, it kind of scratches that itch.
Mm-hmm.
So I love it. But
Was that a Roland Emmerich?
that's Dean
No,
Devlin.
Dean Devlin, the other one.
Yeah. I mean, that one was like, it sounds like it was a disaster to make, but you know, not the worst movie ever.
It made more money than the other one.
What was the other one?
Moonfall.
I need to watch Moonfall. I've
Yeah,
been told I
Moonfall-
don't, but I want to.
Roland Emmerich isn't a very good director.
He's got moments.
As much as I get a kick out of some of his stuff, he's also is a bad director.
White House Down is my favorite of the Die Hard ripoffs post Die Hard franchise. So
Yeah, I definitely can't follow you there.
no, it's good. It's a good movie.
There's got to be just accidentally better Die Hard ripoffs.
Violent Night.
Yes, I would rank Violent Night higher.
I would too, but I liked that one more than you. Also, so I'll go to bat for both. There you go. We do need more Die Hard ripoffs, you know.
We do, but also you need to like not be like, "Hey, we're doing Die Hard." Wink.
Yeah,
wink.
yeah. Don't do that. Just take the single location but big location because you're making a blockbuster.
Well, all right. There is a movie coming out, that is Die Hard in a school.
Oh no! That's not what I'm saying.
Did you see that?
That's the
Like,
Ben Shapiro produced shit, right?
Yeah, the Ben Shapiro. It's from the like actual white nationalist organization, the Daily Wire.
Yeah, so we're not encouraging that.
Yeah, but also like Letterboxd's gonna fucking suck that thing's dick.
What?
Like, they will if it's a good action movie.
I just can't. As Craig Zoller is kind of my barometer of like allowing conservative art to be enjoyable for me. Anything more than that, I'm like, I can't do this. And even then, I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna watch the next thing he does. You know, like,
Yeah.
just
Well, it seems like he might just be done. I think he lost his benefactor because like that guy was like turned out to be a creep.
Oh, that's who that was.
Yeah, I think didn't he produce like 3 of his movies or whatever?
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
So I think that's affected where he's going. But yeah, it is one of those where like, as Craig Zoller, like maybe make as little movies as possible, just so like you don't like go full fascist at some point.
Yeah.
But I never watched. I don't think I ever watched Dragged Across Concrete.
I did, and I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Is that it's like all right, which is what makes me think like Letterboxd will defend the fucking Daily Wire school shooting movie.
Yeah, that's fucked up. If this, I don't know if this puts your mind at ease or rest or whatever, but the other Ben Shapiro produced one that starred Gina Carano apparently cost like upwards of like $20-30 million, maybe even more, and it made like $800.
I mean, yeah, but here's the thing: that movie's propaganda.
No, it is.
Like they don't. The box office is irrelevant because it's being funded by people who have an agenda.
No, sure, but like people aren't watching them too, which is like nice.
That is good, but like it's supposed to play to a very specific audience and get them riled up. Like,
completely. But like it's even that's like not really working, which is. I mean, I'm sure some fuckers are out there like
But it's also like like those Christian movies where you're like, how do these keep getting made? And like some of them do have box office, like those God's Not Dead movies actually make money, but
Yeah,
there's
which
a
is
lot
just
more
fucking
that don't.
wild.
Yeah, but there's a lot more that don't, and a big part of that is they a lot of your tax dollars go to those movies, by the way, because they're technically made by churches who don't pay money in taxes, and they get all sorts of free resources from communities when they make their movies because they're considered donations. So you're like, why is this church movie about a fire department? And it's like, well, because the fire department just let them use all their equipment for free, and that's your tax dollars at work, people. So, because those type of movies are meant to play to a very specific audience and get them riled up, right? Like it's 100% propaganda, and that's what these Daily Wire movies are probably going to be. And hopefully, it's a narrower audience than we think it is, right? Which I think is what we're learning lately is that the actual insanity of the Republican Party is a lot smaller than we think, but the number of more sane Republicans that are willing to go along with the insane ones is the concerning thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's a whole other discussion. Because as we're watching Nixon now, where it's like the whole thing where it's like they're like Nixon, which is true. Nixon's whole thing, his brilliance was he made himself out to be the moderate in like every instance. Like wherever he was like he wasn't anti-war, but he wasn't pro-war. He wasn't, like pro like the civil rights movement, but wasn't anti the civil rights movement. And so everyone around him looked more radical, and that's what allowed him to rise to the politics. And it is this thing of like it is much harder to get someone considered quote unquote radical elected than someone perceived as moderate. And we're testing the waters on that right now. Because we elected someone like Donald Trump, who was just a lunatic, right?
Yeah.
Who did in no way, a lot of this movie's about Nixon kind of like making himself endearing to the American public and shit like that. I mean, the movie opens with for some reason, the White House plumbers are watching like an instructional video. Remember this?
Yes.
And it's like how to sell yourself, or it's like, you don't have to actually be successful. You just have to learn to sell yourself, which is like, oh, that's what Nixon did. It's like a very on the nose thing. And Donald Trump had none of that. Donald Trump is like America just id on display, which was what was kind of fascinating about him. And the Republican Party since Nixon has always gotten more radical in certain directions. They've been smart where but they're also very smart at changing the language where they're not out there complaining about schools being integrated. They just complain about urban schools, right? Mm-hmm. Like they know the language. Yeah. They don't complain about black people. They complain about welfare cheats.
Yeah, and now that of course has transitioned to, well, I just don't want woke.
Yeah, woke, which is like one of the dumbest things ever, and it works because people are just saps. But it's interesting that we're at a stage right now where the Republican Party is just like kind of mask off crazy right now, literally.
Yeah.
like they straight up aren't wearing masks, and they've embraced like every insane faction of their party, which is something they've normally not done. They've known how to keep them in line and appease them, but now they're like totally in the pocket of those crazy candidates. And based on the midterms, that didn't work out too well for them. We will see where that goes going forward, but it's interesting to watch. Because there is no guy in the Republican Party who looks like the moderate right now, right?
Yeah, it's either they're fucking buck wild and should not be in charge of anything, let alone a government, or they're trying to be moderate and they're just boring and haven't gotten anyone's attention. I can't even name anyone trying to do that, but I'm assuming they're out there because politicians do try like centrism and it just doesn't work.
The senator from Florida.
Oh, Ron DeSantis, is that it?
No, he's the governor.
Oh, what the fuck? I'm mixing. Fuck them all. Insane. Whatever. Yeah.
Rubio.
Thank you. Yeah.
He tried to be the moderate guy, and it didn't work out too well for him. And now, like the three guys that are like the front runners right now are the governor of Florida, governor of Texas, and Trump again, right? Like Trump a lot lower than he was earlier, but those are three really radical guys. And it's weird that they're the front runners. It's a question of can they get the different factions united behind them. It looks like a big no for Trump at this point. But who knows what we'll be saying a few years from now.
Yeah.
But it's not like, where in 2012, where the Republicans are like Mitt Romney, I guess, like where there was like never a chance Mitt Romney was going to win,
Yeah.
like, whereas this time it's more up in the air, and who knows? But also there's that thing. I think Trump tricked a lot of us into thinking a more radical guy could win because he actually like won by like an incredibly narrow margin, Like, he actually lost the popular vote, and then I think there was that report that was like, it probably came down to like 30,000 votes is what ultimately sealed it for Trump. And that's an incredibly thin margin, And I think maybe radicalism isn't working out, but we'll see. That's me being a little too hopeful about the future, which has never worked out.
No. We were having a conversation off mic about it. Like, I think it's okay to be optimistic, and we'll see if it's proven correct, but things are leaning positive in the long term. The short term's still a very rocky road ahead. It always is. So we'll see.
Like I think I've said like this next decade's gonna suck, but we're 3 years in now, so only 7 more to go.
Yeah.
But
Let's see if Oliver Stone makes a movie this decade.
But also, what is also weird about watching this movie is just being like, wow, the Republican Party really hasn't changed that much. Like Eisenhower, not like, he definitely a flawed guy. There's no president you can really defend. But there's a big difference between Eisenhower and Nixon,
Yeah.
And it's kind of nuts that like we're still living in the shadow of this guy who flamed out basically.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's like I think some people, centrist Democrats, really have been saying like we want a strong Republican Party, and they're not offering that right now. And it's like, well, no, it's the same. It really is the same people. It's the same stuff. They're just they're saying the quiet parts out loud now. That's all it is, It's like it's the same evils have been like perpetuating this country, which are rooted in the foundations of the country, which is why they're sticking around, and we're struggling to overcome them. But like that's why they're still here. It's just no one's hiding behind a mask anymore. That's
well, I mean, the modern Republican Party is entirely built around. It became the way it is in the reaction to the end of segregation, right?
Yeah.
Like, that is the Southern strategy. That is how the Republican Party goes from the party of Lincoln to, like, the racist party, right? That's how it becomes the grand old party of white dudes. And Nixon is entirely the product of that. That is why he becomes president. It's Vietnam, and it is a reaction. It is the Democrats losing the South because the Democrats support the civil rights movement. And by Democrats, I mean LBJ, because most of the Democrats actually didn't support the civil rights movement, but LBJ did.
Yeah.
So,
and to steal something from you, if you're ever curious, listener, if you're ever curious about like why certain things happen in this country, like how come these certain infrastructures are not supported or outright failing, why is education this way, why are cities designed this way, why are regions structured this way, it's because this country hates black people.
Yeah, it is. It's 100%.
It's all. It always goes back to that,
It is insane. I mean, it really goes back to. I think it was Barbara Fields, who was this professor who was like she studies the Civil War and stuff like that, and she had this great quote about that like we're still fighting the Civil War in a lot of ways, and she's like, look, as long as there's like a class of people who could be homeless in this country, the Civil War is still going on, and she's like, and it could still be lost, and I think that's true. Nixon he becomes the craven, like, lust for power maniac who is able to ride all this conflict to, his own victory. And basically becomes like the American boogeyman. Even though his politics are indistinguishable from people like Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, but he got caught,
Like,
and people publicly lambasted him.
hey,
So
Reagan got caught. Iran-Contra, man. But he faced no consequences. Because the other thing that has shaped the Republican Party that came after Nixon is that the Republican Party is dead set on making sure another president can never be impeached again. And by impeached, I mean driven from office impeached, not the weird show trials we've done with Clinton and Trump, where technically we impeached them, but nothing happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Republican Party has 100%. That is why. I mean, there's an insane moment in this movie where it just wouldn't happen today, where the Supreme Court voted unanimously for Nixon to turn over the Watergate tapes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Nixon, in a weird parallel, picked 3 of the justices that were on the Supreme Court at the time, and they all voted against him because they actually, were doing what they're supposed to do, which is upholding the Constitution. Now, I'm not going to say, of course, they weren't perfect either, but nowadays, the Supreme Court is, hijacked by politics. And even now, now it's really bad, but at least, even today, if something like Nixon happened, there would at least be one maniac, Clarence Thomas, who would vote for Nixon to be protected, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is a belief that kind of came up post-Nixon that the president, when Nixon went on, Frost Nixon, which is a bad movie.
I think it's pretty good.
Those interviews, what?
I think it's pretty good.
It's pretty bad. Because Nixon won those interviews in real life.
Mm-hmm.
It was a huge boon for him, and people reevaluated him, and he came across like an actually skilled politician. But everyone holds up that he does say when the president does it, it's not illegal. People are like, oh God, how could he say something like that? That is a foundational belief of the Republican Party. They believe that if the president does it, it's not illegal. But what they extend it to is when a Republican president does it, it's not illegal. So that's what they believe in, what they have fought for. And they have fought for the massive expansion of executive power, which is something that started during World War II and just kept going. But Nixon is definitely the biggest increase in that. And then there's been enough change that by the time Iran-Contra comes around, where Reagan straight up lied and broke the law, he faced no consequences for it. This
is a very, very optimistic episode.
No, I think it is, because I think we're at the end of it a little bit. At least they're not pretending anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which isn't great, but
no, it is not.
It's also I don't know. It is a depressing thing of how little has actually changed in those years, except that the environment's gotten worse. Didn't Nixon start the EPA?
Oh my God,
which is insane. I think he did.
That's whoa.
Yeah, he did. I know he passed the Endangered Species Act, which is somewhat controversial because part of the Endangered Species Act, some people see it as the government using it to take land away from people, which could have been Nixon's actual motivations. Mm-hmm. But hey, but I think there is no one looks at the president as a dignifying position anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's just gone. Trump blew it all up. It's just over. And I think the fact that the Trump administration literally ended with the entire country is basically still in free fall because of the COVID pandemic, of which nothing was done to stop it. And then the Capitol got stormed. I think enough people, the only people that are delusional about that are people who are actually okay with that happening. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
And a lot less people than you'd think are okay with that.
Yeah, I also think it's important to mention really quickly that I think a lot of people have come around to that. That this is all just a fucking sham. you know, because I think it took a couple years for people to kind of shake it off. You know what I mean? Where there was like, no, we're gonna get back to the way things were. Like we need we need a president that's going to unite all fronts of the American politics.
It was we just got to get Trump out of there and things will smooth out.
Yeah,
right.
And then that just didn't happen.
Like that is 100% not what happened. Yeah. And the Capitol gets stormed, and then Roe v. Wade gets overturned, which is something that like 80% of Americans didn't want to happen. Right. Like most people are actually cool with Roe v. Wade. And that, I think, is a bit of a wake-up call. I don't know if it's, you know, again, there's a lot of factors at play here, but it's the thing of, like, everyone hates Joe Biden right now, but it's like, but who else we got? Like, so, who knows? I could be eating my words in a few years. But it feels like we're at the end of a certain era of conservatism in this country. Now that could mean they're just going to be fascists straight up in the future, right? And but the good thing about fascist dictatorships is it always ends with them all killing each other. So just if you need something to look forward to,
President Nixon lost the Star Wars. Do you remember that? I'm sorry to make it this really quickly, but do you remember that from the Colin Trevorrow script?
No.
Okay, so at the end, because like literally everyone except for J.J. Abrams apparently thought to take Episode 9 to Coruscant, because obviously you have to go back to the capital city of the Star Wars galaxy now that it's been established, right?
You really don't, but okay.
I mean, but the point is, most people were like, yeah, obviously you got to do something there nowadays, right? So Hux is watching the battle happen in Coruscant. The people are rising up against the First Order, and he realizes he's lost. So he commits suicide with a lightsaber because he's become like obsessed with the old like Jedi lore shit, right? So he commits suicide, and the line in the script is Hux lost the Star Wars. And so It's my favorite line ever written in the history of screenplay.
What a bad script.
Like
I know that we have Rise of Skywalker like next to it, so it's like it can be like it looks better, but it's a bad script.
It needed some ironing out.
No, it needed some throwing in the garbage, which is what they did. But,
well, Nixon lost the Star Wars.
Well, also Nixon is the basis for Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah.
Which I think we've discussed.
We have.
On Star Wars episodes.
Yeah.
Which people forget sometimes. But, hey. Nixon, though, far more compelling.
Well, he doesn't... the Emperor is what modern Republicans are. The mask off, just cackling evil. Nixon is... Senator Palpatine. There you go.
I guess.
Modern Republicans are the Emperor. There you go. That's
what they want to be. I'm what they are. I mean, hey, I wouldn't mind if like they just got a guy doing a Nixon impression in one of the new Star Wars movies.
Yeah. Don't. I mean, God bless Ian McDermott. Don't bring him back anymore. Just have other people do Nixon impressions as your... You know what? I'm going to broaden it. Have them do no longer Donald Trump impressions. Do Nixon impressions, because that's more interesting.
Yeah. Well, that was honestly the fucking brilliant move that Futurama made during the Bush years, was to just re-elect Nixon as president.
Yeah.
So then you could just do all the Bush stuff without making it Bush.
Yeah.
Like...
And I mean, that is like the beauty of like... telling stories through like fantasy elements. You know, it's like you can have every angry political thought you have and put it into a story, and people are like, yeah, I buy this. I agree with this, you know?
Well, also the other brilliant stroke of something like Watchmen, the comic, which is set in a world where Nixon's been reelected like 6 times. Like, where he's still the president, which is a very bold statement to be like, America hasn't changed since Nixon.
Yeah.
Which was bold to say in the mid-'80s.
You're a long way from Whittier, which is a line in this movie, and made me very upset.
Do you remember in the Watchmen movie when Dr. Manhattan like attack. I mean, when the bombs go off and they make it look like Dr. Manhattan, and they cut to a guy in like really thick Nixon makeup.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jesus Christ, Henry, why didn't we get a launch detection? And then the Kissinger guy goes like, Mr. President, the energy signature came from Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, as someone who's kind of like reclaimed about half of Snyder's career, I can't quite get there with that one. So,
I don't know if you picked up on this reference, Diego, but they're in the room from Doctor Strangelove.
oh, were they? I must have missed that reference.
Did you pick up on that one?
Yeah.
No filter on that, Zack Snyder. Let me tell you.
Hey, when he works for me, he works for me.
Yeah.
He's got an eye.
He should try to do a biopic.
He said he wanted to do like a 300 style George Washington biopic, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it, do it.
I don't want to. I don't want a 300 style. Like, I want him to try and do a biopic,
like this.
Yeah, this honestly, which is about as factually accurate as 300.
Yes.
But, like, I don't want like Washington like kicking people in the skull or something like that.
No. If he's fighting like the Hessians or whatever, then I'll fucking because America, well, maybe not so much anymore, but we hate the Germans, you know, and they're easy targets. But here's something I'll say: it should be shot by Larry Fong because that guy can frame an image, and I like his use of color very often.
Larry is magic.
Yeah, God, what a fun movie, that Army of the Dead.
Yeah, a fun, really, really off balance movie, but.
Also as factually accurate as the Nixon movie. But here. Let me talk about the technical aspects of this because I've had a lot of thoughts about this lately. Robert Richardson shot Nixon, I believe, right? That's the cinematographer. Did I fuck that? Yeah, Robert Richardson. The film was shot with anamorphic lenses, so you get that nice wide aspect ratio. I believe it's 2.391. And it looks terrific. And I believe, anyways, that that more inherently stylized look that those images have, they tend to provide like a more pulpy aesthetic, right? There's like we associate with like Spielberg and stuff like that, stuff that's not very true to history, if you will. And so I'm definitely not saying Oliver Stone intended that. I think he just likes the look of it. I like the look of it.
This is the natural extension of what he was doing in JFK.
Yes, 100%.
It's very of a piece to the point where there is a scene 52 minutes into this movie when they had that meeting I talked about where they're like, what if Kennedy doesn't run? And they straight up go into the score from JFK. Because John Williams is back, by the way.
Of course.
You could totally just edit the entirety of JFK into the movie at that point.
Yeah.
Like, it could just be, you could just combine the two films.
Make it a 10-hour movie.
Yeah, why not?
Fuck it. But yeah, I love the use of the frame in this. Like, there's that fucking shot of like the CIA logo. Am I remember that correctly?
I think so. You think you're right.
Okay, and it's just like the edges are all distorted because the anamorphic is a wider like lens aspect ratio already. But it's like they use an extra wide lens, so it looks like fucking like strange. It looks like a nightmare. And I don't know. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because because they got to bring up bullshit we always bring up and complain about. So like the Guardians 3 trailer, I was like, this looks strange. Why does this look strange to me? This looks more like compressed and compacted. But James Gunn framed his first two Guardians movies with anamorphic frames. So what's the deal here? And then I saw the IMAX trailer for Guardians 3, and I was like, oh, I think he had to crop his image because he's someone who tends to like taller aspect ratios. Like he shot the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker and Slither and Super. And so I think that those images were compressed. And I find a lot of people go for the anamorphic frames even when the movies don't require it, just because they think it looks more quote-unquote cinematic. and that's not true. I think close-ups tend to struggle to be interesting with the frame unless he was like very motivated. Obviously, like, I mean, you mentioned John Williams, that's Spielberg's guy, and Spielberg was also someone who really like utilized the wider anamorphic frames like better than everyone, like ever. It's like the competition the competition is like John Carpenter in America.
Which is hysterical to think about.
Yeah, and like I don't know, I was just really impressed by the compositions here and like the way because there's a lot of like cross cuttings, right?
It's not like it's a long movie.
It's super fucking long, and
it's got to keep this going and it never really runs out.
No,
that's what's wild. And I just can't imagine. It is like a spinning plates type movie of like, there's no way it's maintaining this energy, and then it just kind of does.
Yeah. Like I was really impressed by the ability of like the cross cutting with the edits, right? Because it's like you can't just frame one image. You have to frame multiple images that bleed into each other that way. That's really impressive. And like the movie never lets up with that. And so Robert Richardson, maybe underappreciated cinematographer, although he is like Tarantino's guy, so maybe not that underappreciated.
Now, so.
Although he also did just shoot Emancipation.
Yeah, but no one saw that, so who cares?
I have Apple TV and I haven't seen it. And that apologies to Will Smith. I just don't like Antoine Fuqua very much.
Well, let's go on a Will Smith discussion right now because we're never going to bring him up again on this podcast. My boy Nixon.
No.
What other Nixon movies are there?
Watchmen? No.
Well, there's we talked about we just talked about Frost Nixon, which you apparently like.
I do like it, yeah.
Yeah. I don't
Sorry.
Don't care for that movie. That's such a dumb movie. Sorry.
No, I think Ron Howard actually I don't consider him a very energetic director all the time.
Yeah.
I think he brings a certain energy to it that I really like.
I guess.
I
think it's just one of those where, like, if you know the real story of that one, it's kind of like, this isn't that interesting.
Mm-hmm. But it's fiction. This one is also fiction.
Yeah, but that like Frost Nixon is straight up based on the Frost Nixon interviews.
Yeah.
Like, it is straight up saying something that happened did the exact opposite. Like,
that's true.
It's a little different. There's Secret Honor, the Robert Altman movie.
Oh, there's also, of course, how could we forget to mention this? X-Men: Days of Future Past.
Oh my God, you're right. I forgot Nixon's
in that one.
Really underutilized the fact that Nixon's in that movie.
Yeah. Doesn't really portray him as a villain either.
Yeah.
Not even antagonistic, really.
Yeah. Part of that movie, like, they're not saving him, but there is a part where it's like Nixon might die and the X-Men stop it from happening. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting.
It is. There's that conversation we have had, and many people have now, where it's like, "Hey, is upholding the status quo really the best way superheroes can go about their business?" Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe we need a little Batman Begins moment there, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't have to kill you. But I don't have to save you.
Yeah, the problem is that's more of like a narrative problem than anything else. Because the moment a superhero does something like that, it's like, well, why aren't they fixing all the world's problems? Yeah, Oliver Stone should be in prison.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, there are two Elvis meets Nixon movies.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's always a fun matchup.
Yeah, well, that really happened.
Well, yes, but it's a fun thing to go back to. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I mean the contrast
both
of
those movies are
personalities.
Bad. They're bad movies.
Which I haven't seen either of them.
There is Nixon in China. Do you know what that is?
No.
Nixon in China is an opera about Nixon going to China.
That sounds thrilling.
It's actually really good.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Although opera is one of those arenas where, like, I think like Yellowface has hung in way longer than it should.
Oh no!
Yeah. Like I'll say they aren't like from what I remember, the version I saw, which I think was recorded in like the 90s. So there's a little bit of distance, but like they weren't like yellow face, but they were like in makeup to make them look more Asian, you know. So it's still not good.
Yeah, I don't love
but
that.
Opera's one of those things where like it like seems to have lasted and no one's really complained that much. I mean, I'm sure people have complained, but no one's listened, I guess.
Yeah.
There's the assassination of Richard Nixon. Have you heard of that movie?
No, I have not.
It's a Sean Penn movie. It's based on a true story about a guy who really tried to assassinate Nixon and failed miserably. His plan was to hijack a plane and fly it into the White House while Nixon was there, which was absurd in 1974. And the guy didn't know how to fly a plane and wanted the pilots to do it for him, basically. And I think he only ended up killing one of the pilots, and then he shot himself. And Nixon was unaffected by the actions of that man. But he also is one of those guys where like he left like 17 hours of like audio recording. So like we know like all his motivations and stuff like that. It's very Taxi Driver-esque, that movie. But nothing too great. Sean Penn played the guy.
Oh, we have to talk about the literature representation of Richard Nixon, specifically because of Transmetropolitan. Have you heard of that comic?
Oh yes, I have read that comic.
Okay.
One of my favorite comics of all time, until Warren Ellis was outed as a creep.
Yeah, well, Warren Ellis, that one is a huge bummer.
Yeah, that one really bummed me out when that happened.
Yeah.
But no, I read Transmetropolitan. I read at like the exact right age, where I was fucking angry at the entire world, and then fucking Spider Jerusalem comes along and is like fucking like fuck this whole system, and I was like, yeah, man. Yeah, and he's very much he is. It's basically like he's like cyberpunk Hunter S. Thompson, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was also reading a lot of that time, Hunter S. Thompson. So Nixon's arch nemesis, basically. And then like Transmetropolitan is like a cyberpunk version of that rivalry to like its logical extreme, right? Although the Nixon character, I believe, not to spoil the comic, but I believe he leaves the series in the middle of the comic. Like he gets defeated in an election in the middle, right? And then it's like the last guy he fights is he looks more like Mitt Romney. Probably more of a Clinton analog, because I think that when they started publishing it, it was the the 90s.
Yeah, late 90s.
And by the end it was, yeah. So, yeah, I read a fucking shit ton of Transmetropolitan back in the day.
Yeah, if you are still interested out there, there are websites where you can read this stuff for free, so you don't have to give that guy money.
Warren Ellis I was a big fan of a lot of Warren Ellis's work. And real shame when that one happened.
Yeah.
He had a comic called Dr. Sleep, which not Dr. Sleep, Dr. Sleepless. Dr. Sleep is the Stephen King story, which was never finished, and it feels very relevant to these days, even though I think they only got like 13 issues out. But yeah, that one sucks.
Yeah. I'm on Warren Ellis's Wikipedia page. Just fuck him. But a guy who definitely influenced a lot of modern pop culture. So
yes,
I didn't realize he was a writer on the original Dead Space, and obviously, in hindsight, that makes tons of sense.
And the last thing he did before he was outed was he wrote that Castlevania animated series, which was actually pretty good.
Oh, okay.
So
bummer.
Yeah, real bummer all around on that one. Planetary was another really good one he did. And he took over, he did The Authority and shit like that, which were, at the time, were really revolutionary stuff. I mean, you brought up superheroes about is in action. Like, is the status quo the best option for them? And a lot of Warren Ellis's work kind of explores like like the consequences of a superhero taking action, which is interesting.
Yeah, and like fuck him. An idea still
Yeah.
worth exploring outside of his stuff. Like.
Yeah, and their comics are some of the easiest stuff to read without giving anything to the creators. It's almost like the industry is designed that way.
Yeah, this is the nexus point of all that terrible bullshit being like, yeah, you could probably feel okay if you're interested in the story without giving money to the guy. Now, that's bad on a general basis. This one specific one is pretty good. So,
and Warren Ellis, another guy, just like odd Nixon comparison, but was also a dude who was very much like his public persona was a character, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Warren Ellis, like he kind of like he made himself out to be a type of person, almost like Spider Jerusalem-esque,
Yeah.
Like there's even a documentary about Warren Ellis where it's very much about like where does the fake Warren Ellis end and where does the real one begin, and turns out the real Warren Ellis was a bad person. And it turns out both Nixons were bad. So what's that Onion headline? Good cop, bad cop, both racist. So
It's a pretty good one.
yeah. Damn. Well, I don't know if Transmetropolitan totally holds up. Like I said, I read it when I was like peak angry young white man.
Mhm.
Like, just it hit me at the exact right time, and I was reading it like Obama era too. Like when the Obama the optimism of Obama winning died.
Oh, so it's
so
perfectly teed you up.
yeah, and so I was just very, very angry. So I don't know if it holds up, but if you're young, it might be worth reading.
Yeah.
If you can get a hold of it in a way that's not giving money to anyone.
The last one I want to mention before going back to Nixon, and frankly, I think we could start winding down a little bit.
I got a lot to say still.
Okay, well, I will wind down. I'll let you go crazy. Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump. Oh yeah, where Forrest causes the Watergate break-in to be discovered.
What a fucking movie! Oh my god.
Yeah. What a stupid all right.
Yeah, no, it is.
No, like that scene specifically, like the movie, yes, but that scene where he meets Nixon, which is the one funny moment in that movie where he's like, "So I went to the White House again, and I met the president again." Like he did all that, and he's like, Nixon's like, "Where are you staying, young man?" And I can't remember what fucking what's his name says. Forrest Gump says. He's like, "Oh no, I got a new place. It's very nice, very clean. I'll send you there." And it's like that terrible editing Tom Hanks into old footage type thing, which some of that hasn't aged very well.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to he's at the Watergate. We don't know it yet, but what the fuck? Where else would Nixon put him, right?
Yeah.
We all get the joke. And he's like, "Excuse me, miss, there's a break-in. I see some people. Looks like the lights are out over in the building next door. Okay, bye." So if it then, even if you don't get the joke at that point, somehow the camera pans down, so you see the stationery on the desk that says Watergate.
That guy made a Pinocchio movie last year.
Yeah, there was multiple Pinocchio movies last year.
Yeah, one of them was made by Guillermo del Toro, so it was great.
It was very good, and they really want you to know Guillermo del Toro directed it, and not another person with Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, credit to co-director Mark Gustafson, who del Toro seems to be crediting more than literally everyone else. So good on him.
To be fair, I think that was more just to separate it from the fact that there was also a Disney Pinocchio released this year.
Yeah.
That they needed something, and Netflix's Pinocchio doesn't sound as good.
No.
You know how the Watergate burglars were caught?
I actually don't remember.
Security guard noticed a broken lock, and he called it in.
That's thrilling.
Yeah.
Thrilling.
Yeah, and that's how the shadow government operates, Diego. Yeah, security guard Frank Willis who, like, I think his life we mostly don't know. We don't know a lot about him after Watergate. I think he ended up being impoverished for a huge chunk of his life, but he was just a guy who, like, he was just doing his rounds and he noticed a fucking broken lock and called it in. It says on the night of June 17th, Wills noticed a piece of duct tape on one of the door locks when he was making his first round. So, he returned 30 minutes later and saw that there was more tape on the door, and that's when he called it in. So that guy caught the Watergate burglars.
Wow. Changed the course of American history.
Yeah, changed the course. This one fucking guy. And then this is it's not brought up in this movie because it would make the shadow government look like to be a really foolish thing to believe in. If one messed with door can lead to the end of a presidency. That's what we should talk about. Like, The Post, is technically a Nixon movie. We hear a lot of actual Nixon audio in it.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit of overlap because that movie's about the Pentagon Papers, which were leaked by Daniel Ellsberg. And there's a lot of Nixon in that movie. Gotta get Ellsberg. Gotta shut him down. Like, that movie literally ends with the Watergate break-in. Like,
yeah. It's like a Rogue One post-credit scene.
Yeah. And then the seminal classic, All the President's Men, which I'm sure you've seen.
Mm-hmm, of course.
Yeah, everyone I think's seen that. Like one of the definitive newspaper movies. The other Nixon movie to bring up, of course, is Black Dynamite.
Oh, how could I forget?
How could anyone forget?
Oh my God, yes.
There's a kung fu battle between Nixon and Black Dynamite.
Yes, which is a masterpiece, by the way.
Black Dynamite is saved by the ghost of Abraham Lincoln.
That's a better movie than most of the movies we talk about.
Yes. So Woodward and Bernstein are, like, widely credited for cracking Watergate, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, like, him, Deep Throat, all that shit. That's what led to Watergate getting uncovered. Now, Madeline Kahn is in this movie. Do you remember this?
Yes.
Do you remember who Madeline Kahn plays?
I do not.
She plays a woman named Martha Mitchell, who was the wife of John Mitchell, who ran Nixon's re-election campaign. John Mitchell, I believe, was played by E.G. Marshall in this. John N. Mitchell, later Attorney General. He took responsibility for Watergate. All right, Martha Mitchell is this woman from back in the day who was, like, the hot gossip in Washington, D.C. Like, she would just call up any reporter and tell them anything, right? Because she just loved the gossip. And people were like, she was really entertaining. She was even on, like, Laugh-In and shit, which was Nixon on Laugh-In? Was that what Nixon went on?
I don't remember.
Have you ever seen that clip?
No. But
I think Laugh-In is where they used to do Sock It To Me. Remember that? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? And so you can find a clip of Nixon looking directly into the camera going, "Sock it to me?"
Yes, it was Laughing, by the way.
Yes. So that was the equivalent of Donald Trump going on SNL back in the day. Nixon going on Laugh-In. You should play the "Sock It to Me" clip sometime during this.
Maybe that's where I'll open it. Instead of the trailer, I'll use the "Sock It to Me."
But so people knew her. Watergate happens. John Mitchell was the head of the Committee to Re-elect the President, CRP, or as it was regularly known as, CREEP. The Committee to Re-elect the President was referred to as CREEP. Like, this is kind of a bad satire. So, he gets a call. It basically says, like, hey, Watergate happened. We're in some deep trouble. And he's like, oh, shit. I cannot have... he's like, and some of the people who did the Watergate break-in, Martha Mitchell knew personally, and were, like, her bodyguards or, like, helped her around. So she would be able to, like, directly link the Committee to Re-elect the President to the Watergate break-in. So they're like, "Hey, Martha, why don't you go down to California, Los Angeles for a little bit, stay in this hotel?" And they're like, "Don't let her read any newspapers. Don't let her see a goddamn thing." Within like a day of being there, she gets hold of the Los Angeles Times, sees the Watergate break-in, calls up a reporter, and is like, "Hey, I know who broke into the Watergate." She reports it. I can't remember if it was the initial phone call, but in one of the phone calls, she's on call with the reporter. She's spilling all the hot goss about the Watergate break-in, and in the middle of the phone call, the reporter hears Martha go, "Hey, get your hands off of me!" And then the line goes dead. The story gets published in a newspaper. But because it was from Martha Mitchell, it was published in like the home and garden section for like women in the newspaper. And it's basically like, it's stuff where it's like, like, oh, here's how to like do like a good floral setup. It's like, oh, this is what they're doing with their living rooms today. And then like in the middle of that, it's like, Martha Mitchell links committee to re-elect president to Watergate break-in. And the general response from the public was, "Oh, that Martha, she's a real character." No one believes it. They put out this. I believe her husband puts out a statement that is like, she has a drinking problem, which wasn't untrue. She did drink a lot. She has a drinking problem and she's insane. So don't listen to anything she says. They pay off her the Nixon administration pays off her psychiatrist to get her locked in a mental institution. No one believed her. 2 years later, when Woodward and Bernstein break the story, suddenly everyone realized fucking Martha Mitchell was right. And people were like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" So Martha Mitchell actually broke the Watergate story. It's weird that, like, Martha Mitchell's in this movie, but that story is, like, such a minor part of it. Because that is one of the crazier things to happen during the Nixon administration.
But again, that's reality crazy. And this film,
Yeah.
the reality is building that it's touting as reality. It cannot have...
It completely contradicts Oliver Stone's worldview.
Yeah. Yeah, so they can't be in it.
Yeah, it can't be in it. But it's just crazy that, like, why even include her if you're not even going to do that? I guess because she is married to John M. Mitchell, but, like, still. But they got Madeline Kahn,
Yeah. Here's a question that might make you angry. Is Rita Skeeter from the Harry Potter series based on Martha Mitchell?
I don't think so, because Rita Skeeter was actually like a reporter. Martha Mitchell was just a gossip.
Was she? Because maybe I'm just misremembering. I thought she was like she had like a tabloid angle constantly.
Well, yeah, but she ran a tabloid. Like, she had a column. She wrote books too. Rita Skeeter.
I guess I have to revisit those books when I'm dead.
Yeah, you don't really need to. All you need to remember is that it turns out she can turn into a bug. Because she's an unregistered animagus, or whatever the fuck they were called.
I don't remember that at all. Holy shit.
That's how she could get all her hot gossip.
Do they reveal that in Goblet of Fire? I don't even remember.
They do. That's how the book ends.
Okay. That makes sense.
And Hermione has captured her.
That's right. Okay, and then so in the fifth book, which is much better than the fifth movie, they have to team up with her to like expose the existence of Voldemort again, right?
Yeah, there's like she turns into like an uneasy ally because she is still like kind of like a piece of shit because it's J.K. Rowling's excuse to go after tabloid journalists.
Yeah.
Which
it's an interesting dynamic, and it's like, wow, it's a bummer that that's not in the movies at all, and also, of course, J.K. Rowling's continued existence. But anyways, I just had that question.
Who would be the equivalent today of like they were the ones that broke open the whole thing? Like you just wouldn't expect it.
I don't think we have that, and it's not that people are not capable of that accidentally. I think it's no longer the journalists or gossips, right? I think now it's just these politicians, like we talked about them being so mask off. I think now they just say shit, Like,
I think there's that whole angle, but I mean, like, we just had that thing where that Andrew Tate guy or whatever got arrested, right?
Yeah.
After publicly feuding with that girl.
Yeah, Greta Thunberg, a literal child, teenager.
Yeah, and like the joke was that like the pizzas he ordered might have been what led to his downfall, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't know how true that is, but it's a funny story. Like
Apparently very accurate because like I think the Greece police or the Greek police, they were like, hey, that's like a local pizza parlor in this part of the country. Let's
that's
go
what I heard.
get
It
them.
was just one of those. It's one of those stories where it's like that is. I so want that to be true that I'm going to be skeptical of it.
Okay.
Like, so, but like still, like that is hysterical if it happened. But like, do you remember early in the Trump administration, Tom Arnold was going around saying like he was going to find the Donald Trump tapes? Do you remember?
No.
Tom Arnold, of all people, was like going around being like, I have access to people who can get me the Donald Trump tapes. And I think it was like remember there's the alleged P tape of Donald Trump, right?
Mhm.
That the Russians might have. And then there's the tapes of him saying the N-word, which allegedly are just out there, and like there's a guy who probably has them and is just sitting on them. The guy who produced Celebrity Apprentice, because allegedly a lot of it is from that.
Jesus.
And Tom, like it would be like if Tom Arnold had actually gotten the tapes out there, like that would have been the equivalent. Because like he would have gotten them out there and no one would have cared, because it's fucking Tom Arnold.
Yeah.
Or like if someone goofy, I don't know, who's like a personality. Who's the girl from Uncut Gems?
I forgot her name. Julia Fox.
Julia Fox. It'd be like if Julia Fox is what led to the Mar-a-Lago thing. You know? Like Julia Fox is like, hey, I found this piece of paper in my room. Is this important? Like, it led to, Donald Trump stole nuclear secrets. Like, that would be the equivalent, I guess. Would be kind of amazing.
Well, see, I was just thinking, like, it's so, like, that doesn't happen anymore because of stuff like that one journalist, when Trump tweeted something out, like, some heinous crime, and the journalist was just like, he just tweeted it out. I spent a year of my life trying to get the sources on this story verified, and he just tweeted it out. Like, that's what I think of now, you know?
Yeah, I do think of that, too. Well, there was also, like, remember, like, let's see how Trump wiggles his way out of this one.
Yeah, and then he just, like, does. Nothing happens.
Like, nevertheless, like, there was a lot of that during the Trump years, which is concerning.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, it was one of those things where Nixon, there is a line in this movie where if Nixon had gone on the air and been like, look, I did this and I'm sorry, he probably would have stayed president, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was his refusal to admit any wrongdoing. And I think the thing that has saved Trump essentially is that he hasn't had to testify at all yet, right?
Yeah. Well,
like, I think
hasn't he been like subpoenaed or something like that, or he's going to be?
He has, but like you can fight that shit for as long as fucking possible.
Oh no,
right?
no, absolutely. I'm just saying, like, there's been movement to get him to do that.
Yeah, like if he ever gives a deposition, that might actually lead to the end of Donald Trump. Like, because like perjury is actually the thing you can get in trouble for, and there's no way he can't talk for 5 seconds without lying. Like, and it's not even that Donald Trump is like an insane. It's just like he's fucked up. Like that's just how he is.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, interesting times to be alive.
Yeah, interesting doesn't mean calm or relaxing or not stressful, but yes, interesting. Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Be it 50 years, whatever's left of humanity, or the alien species that discovers our corpses, there will be fascinating history to uncover. Anyways,
looking at my notes.
Yeah. I think you have more to say about this movie than I do, but I like JFK, I would recommend it if you understand that it's complete and utter bullshit.
Yeah, it's bullshit and it's insane, and it's Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
Like those elements put together. Yeah, it's different. Here's one thing that's difficult is that this one's a lot harder for me to like. I couldn't fact check it. And I didn't go as deep as I did on JFK. And what's a little hard is that a lot of people who came down hard on this movie are like Nixon defender types, right? Like there was a real attempt. Nixon spent the last 20 years of his life trying to rehabilitate his image, and he succeeded to some degree, right? Like he is somewhat more fondly looked upon than he was at the outset of Watergate, right?
Right.
Still, arguably one of history's greatest monsters. But I didn't realize this movie only made $13 million.
Yeah, it is also a failed blockbuster.
Yeah, I totally missed that. I thought this movie was a hit. So, I guess what was the theatrical version was shorter than the later one, but that one is still 3 hours and something and change, whereas
It's 3 hours 10. The other one is like 3:40.
Yeah, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah,
there's an almost 4-hour Nixon movie.
Yeah, so whenever people are like, "Man, they make movies too long nowadays," no, shut the fuck up. No, just because you watch more than 5 movies a year now doesn't mean you know what you're talking about. They used to make long movies all the time. They used to make more long movies all the time.
It's a little weird that like now people are like, "Oh, these Marvel movies are so long," and they've kind of been that length since the beginning. A lot of them,
not to fight you too much on that. They were about 2 hours, 2 hours 30.
That's long.
That's long, but now those are getting a little longer.
Once you cross the 2-hour limit, you're a long movie.
I would agree with that. And that's not inherently a bad thing. But like Black Panther 2 is like 2:45, right, or something like that.
But it seems like the average of the Marvel movie at this point is 2.5 hours, and
that's a little lengthy.
What they mean is they are more bored during the Marvel movies.
Yeah, but it's easier to say something more nebulous in concept, like it's too long, instead of these are bad, I guess.
So all right, so let's talk about Nixon versus JFK, the first televised debate. I'm sure you know the lore of this, right?
In passing, Like
what do you know? Because it would be a good looking because you probably know what the average person knows.
That Nixon failed miserably to garner the country's either sympathy or support.
Well, it's the first televised debate in U.S. history, right? So it's the first one. Now, what's interesting is that Nixon reportedly won a lot of the people just listening over the radio. But universally, everyone that watched him on the TV thought he failed because he came across like a lunatic. Now, the movie plays it up, but it's not that much played up, to be honest.
Yeah, it doesn't make him look good. And I do think that, you're right. This is interesting to talk about because this is it's also the era where we're getting like Vietnam footage eventually and stuff like that too, right? Like the war overseas, we're seeing at home for the first time.
Our perception of war changes drastically because of the footage we start getting. Like it's a whole the ballpark changes right in the middle of Nixon's run in politics.
This changes the way we see the world too, which is I think. Not at the time. There's no way they could have accounted for this, but I do think this is also like we're talking about like the dissolution of respect of public office, right? Like I do think this is what eventually brings us to where we are now. We can see these people for who they are. They can, even if they try to have a facade, we usually see through it pretty quickly. Yeah. To the point that that's probably what makes them go mask off to be like, fine, this is who I fucking am. I'm horrible.
Yeah, well, remember like Gerald Ford fell down a flight of stairs once, and then on SNL, like the bit for like years was that Gerald Ford kept falling over. Like that was the only bit they did with Gerald Ford, and now it's like every day we have new footage of Joe Biden falling down,
or saying something just like ridiculous because the horse tranquilizers are too strong.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, if we're going to have Joe Biden in office, keep pumping him full of that shit so he can start fights with, like, turkeys on Thanksgiving or whatever the fuck he's talking about.
Whatever that was.
I have no explanation, and no one wants to talk about it. I get a kick out of it in this hellscape.
But, so, like, it is this big paradigm shift where, like, and that Kennedy represents, I mean, that's really why Kennedy is so important. He represents kind of, like, this new future for America of like a young, handsome man, like the youth taking over, right? He's very much like kind of Obama of his time, but like Obama kind of represented like an optimism when he was elected, right?
Yeah.
And didn't pan out that way, but there was a few years where people were very optimistic, and it is just kind of like it's this big shift, and that is he was the vice president, right? He was under Eisenhower. He became vice president. I don't believe he was the initial vice president. He kind of weaseled his way in a very Harry Truman-esque fashion. He, in the middle of, in the build-up to him running for office, or no, in the re-election campaign for Eisenhower, he's almost kicked off the ticket because his secret slush fund was founded. They bring that up in the movie, where he might have been, because he was very poor, and he was given a lot of money for re-election, but it might have gone to like a private fund, right? So it's this weird thing of like Nixon both knowing and not knowing how to use mass media, because the debate is like a massive failure. Before that, he has the famous Checkers speech, which is brought up in this movie. You know what that is, right?
No, please don't.
You missed the Checkers speech?
I think I missed the Checkers speech.
It's very brief. He goes on TV and basically he does what he won't do at the end of this movie, which is like, look, I made some mistakes. He does what Reagan eventually does during Iran-Contra, right? Where Reagan is like, in my heart, I believe that when I told the American people I did not sell money to, whatever, that I was being honest, but the facts and the evidence point in the opposite direction. And which is like, wow.
Yeah, it's just, no, it's called lying.
But Nixon's like, look, here's all the money we were given. It was used incorrectly. I did not mean for it to be used that way, but I am keeping one thing, which is this black and white Cocker Spaniel that was given to us as a gift, which my children have affectionately named Checkers. Like, fucking coldly calculated, right?
Yeah.
Like, him being like, I'm gonna keep the cute dog for my children. Like, and it, like, his popularity soars, like, massively after this speech. It's a big deal. It's a big turning point in politics. But they have that joke on Futurama. Do you remember that one?
No, I don't.
Remember when he took Bender's body, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I'm not going to give you my body back, just the same way I won't give back my Cocker Spaniel Checkers.
Oh.
Checkers goes, bark, and he goes, shut up, damn it! Which seems right. Billy West, who voices Nixon on Futurama, says that he was a child when the Nixon-Kennedy debate happened, and he was terrified of Nixon because he thought he was turning into a werewolf. So that's how bad the televised debate went.
Well, that's maybe the greatest explanation I've ever heard in my entire life. He thought he was turning into a werewolf. There's a movie there.
There's a movie.
The presidential debate ends with a werewolf.
Well, that's why Nixon on Futurama is always going like, "Haroo!" That's why they have him do that. So, it's some great shit. It's also the other thing of like he built his career off of like the Red Scare, right? Like, and that's where Nixon, he stands next to McCarthy. McCarthy looks like the lunatic, and his career comes to like a crashing halt. But Nixon is able to ride the wave of the Red Scare to the vice presidency. Like again, he's this modern. There's a great book called Nixon Land, which I was going to reread before we did this episode, and then I realized it would make me too depressed. It's called Nixon Land: The Rise of a President and the Fracturing of America. And it's kind of about how Nixon was able to ride out the 60s and kind of build up his platform. But a big part of it is that he loses the election to JFK. He fails to run for governor of California, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. That's failure. And that's when he gets on TV and gives the speech where he's like, "You won't have old Dick Nixon to kick around." Like, he fucking loses it on television. And everyone's like, well, it's over. Like, he's never coming back from this. And it really was. And then later, he's, like, fucking 8 years later, he's president. And it's like the most powerful president in American history. Like, that is kind of wild. The other movie that taps into this a little bit is the much maligned Vice, the Dick Cheney movie.
Which I still have not seen.
Which we have not seen. And much like the movie The Whale, I seem to be the only defender of, so it probably means it's a bad movie. But it's another movie where we see Dick Cheney basically go from being like, he was out of the game and was probably never going to recover, and then not only was he able to come back, he ended up becoming the most powerful vice president in U.S. history. So, interesting parallels. And also, he, unlike Nixon, where Nixon rode the Red Scare, a lot of what Cheney did was him and people like Rumsfeld realized that any Republicans not connected to Watergate, there was now a huge opening for them, and that's how a lot of them got into our government. So, thanks, Nixon, you fucker.
Well, at least he's dead.
Yes. When did he dies? Like 94, right? Like a year before this movie comes out.
Yeah, because there's footage of his funeral in the movie.
Yeah. So he dies. Yeah, so I'm born by the time Nixon dies.
Yep.
So Nixon and I were alive on the Earth for 1 year at the same time.
You believe in reincarnation, Matthew? No.
You know what? Here's the thing. I think I would be Nixon if I had no moral compass. I think if I had no moral compass, I could end up in a Nixon position.
All right.
Where
yeah, maybe.
I'm just cravenly chasing power. It's just, I don't want any of that. You hear I freak out on you on this podcast. Or Nixon has that scene where it's like, I can take the name calling and the lies and the cheats, but I can't stand to lose. Like, what sums up the Waffle Press better than that? You won't have old Gringo to kick around anymore. He's storming out of the podcast.
I'm not a quitter, and I'm never have been. I'm not stupid either.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, thankfully there's like no scandal that you can really get caught up in if you're reviewing movies on a podcast.
You say that, but there have been some fucking weirdos that have been outed for shit. So
yeah, but like they're outed for shit that's kind of outside the movie thing. Like,
yeah, I guess you're right.
Creeps. Yeah. Was there anyone that was like they actually got caught taking bribes from studios?
No, because they don't do that. Yeah. That's just what the director of Fanboys theorized.
Yeah.
And was immediately disproven by people being like, no, The Last Jedi was pretty good in light of the Rise of Skywalker's release. You'd think they would have paid people to defend that one a little more.
Yeah. People are dumb.
Yeah. Yes, they are.
Also, this movie's like weird. Like the chronological order of this movie is like really weird. Where they're because it starts with the White House plumbers breaking in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the opening of the movie. Then we cut to 18 months later when it's like the last hours of Nixon. Like it's him towards the end where it's like, oh god, shit's not gonna work out. I wish J. Edgar Hoover hadn't died. He could have fixed this. And then we cut back to the day after the Watergate break-in. And then we cut back to 18 months later again, and then we go back to the Nixon-JFK television debate.
Yeah, I gotta give the movie credit for being able to, like, we talked about it, like, never losing steam, really, like, but to be able to maintain the momentum for what is arguably a screenplay you would fail if you submitted it to a screenwriting class. Yeah. Like,
well, I do wonder how much of these movies were like, what does the screenplay look like versus the final product, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wonder how much Oliver Stone just shoots a lot and then finds the movie in the editing.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that might be it, too. Because if you look at, like, his more recent stuff, which are, like, all bad. And we've talked about pretty frequently about, like, the way movies are made now. Like, you lose, like, 50% of the days you used to have. Like, you used to be able to make movies. That's why bigger movies used to be more consistently, how do I put this, better. Because they could take the time to actually make them. And now it's just like, you're rushing through shit to get stuff done, basically, to make
meet, like,
shareholders
quarterly
happy.
projection.
Yeah. So I'm willing to bet that's kind of one of the things that shifted Oliver Stone's quality as well. Apart from him further losing his mind. Like, I do think
I think
that's
he
part
just
of it.
ran out of steam at a certain point. Like, you get to something like W, and there's just like no energy to it, which is it's an embarrassing version of Nixon, like, which is saying a lot.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Nixon and JFK are remarkably embarrassing films in their own right. They just happen to be, like,
One just
kind of
happens to
great.
actually be entertaining.
Yeah, I think they're, like, they're terrifically made, unfortunately. We also didn't mention the opening title card of the film.
Oh, yes.
The film is a dramatic interpretation of events and characters based on public sources and an incomplete historical record. Incomplete is doing some fucking heavy lifting there.
Yep, heavy lifting.
Some scenes and events are presented as composites or have been hypothesized or condensed. Again, hypothesized doing some fucking Eiffel Tower level heavy lifting here.
That's like the fucking. I think I brought it up the Dana Carvey show where they did Oliver Stone's Revolutionary War, and he's like, George Washington didn't have a documented coke problem. This is an amalgamation of several characters who were in Washington's orbit. It's also the movie Vice, the Adam McKay film, also has a similar opening where it's like this is based to the best of our ability on factual accounts. But keep in mind that Dick Cheney is one of the most secretive men in U.S. history. And I believe it literally ends with, like, we did our fucking best. Like, that's the opening lines to Vice.
See, that makes it sound like I might like it.
Yeah, you might. I don't know. It is one where you're like, even as a defender of it, there are moments in that movie where I'm like, okay, let's not do this. But the audacity of it, I kind of respect. Hey, did you notice that this movie was released by the Walt Disney Company?
Jesus Christ. We used to make movies in this country.
When is Nixon going to be on Disney Plus?
Oh, God. Oh, my God. No, this is what I want, because, like, I think people forget movies, like, big movies used to be able to do this. Smaller budget movies are the only ones that get, like, moderately experimental with, like, their filmmaking style and editing and cross-cutting and shit like that. Show this to, like, someone on TikTok, they're going to have a stroke. And I don't mean that as a negative. I mean, like, they're not aware of the capabilities of cinema, basically.
Yeah.
Like, they're gonna die. And then they're gonna be reborn and they're gonna cancel Oliver Stone. And I'll be right there with them. Cause, like,
Oliver Stone should be canceled.
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of is, but, like, more than he is.
Yeah.
Like, but the thing is, he's lined up with the conspiracy theorists who will defend anyone.
Yeah.
But, hey. We also get, like, flashbacks of fucking Mary Steenburgen plays his mother.
Yeah.
In the flashbacks and, like, the weird, like, Quaker upbringing that they had, where he lost, like, 2 of his brothers. All right, insane editing moment in this movie. Do you know what I'm about to bring up?
I don't, because so much of this movie is insane editing moments. I'm going to screen cap some of the sequences just so people can see when I upload the episode. So
there's the scene where Pat Nixon is like, I'm going to divorce you if you stick to politics, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, she's like, I'm done. Like, we're I don't want anything to do with you anymore. And he's like, he's trying to give her the old Nixon charm, which is a line from later, but it's still, like, insane. And he goes, like, I remember the first time I saw you. I think I asked you to marry me right then and there. Like, he's doing all that.
Yeah.
And they do a flashback to a younger Nixon, and there's them meeting, and for, like, half a second, they flash Mary Steenburgen over young Pat Nixon. Do you remember this?
Not really.
There's an edit where it's like, oh, he saw his mother in Pat Nixon,
Oh, it's strange.
which is like, hey, okay then.
I guess we could delve into that. Sure.
I don't know if we need to. I think
No. I mean, like the
all of
film.
it.
Like, I guess we can like go there. They don't particularly explore that. But
I mean, there is a lot of Pat Nixon in this movie, played very well by Joan Allen, who's a terrific job.
yeah, Joan Allen, great actress.
Yes, which I believe this is the movie that like really kind of kicks her career in the high gear. Like she'd been around, but this one she gets like an Academy Award nomination, and after this is when she's doing bigger movies. We of course know her from Manhunter.
Yeah, as Reba McClane.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, which is
Good movie.
This movie's not as good as Manhunter, but what is?
Goddamn, like yeah, it's like Nixon, The Crucible, The Ice Storm, Face Off, Pleasantville, all in the 90s.
Fucking run, my God. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously,
that's a hell of a
Face Off is the peak, but
Yeah. But that's like such a 90s run of movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like so good for her.
And then of course she's in the Bourne movies. She's in the Bourne sequels.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah, at least the first two, or the immediate two sequels, 2 and 3.
I guess she has a cameo in the Bourne Legacy.
I forget because I haven't seen that movie since it came out. I should have revisited it because it's Tony Gilroy, but like I don't know if it's like leftover footage or something from Bourne Ultimatum, because Legacy takes place at the same time as Ultimatum.
Yeah, but also isn't that a movie that got like re-edited like in post-production?
I don't know, but maybe this is what will turn people off Tony Gilroy. He was at some festival doing a screenwriter's talk, and he was like, "I still think Bourne Legacy is the best movie I've made, to be honest with you." And I was like, "Whoa!"
He's allowed to think that.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I don't have to agree with him, but he's allowed to think that.
Yeah, you make Michael Clayton, you say whatever you want, basically.
Yeah.
As long as you're not like a Nazi or something. But
yeah, as long as you don't say something truly insane.
yeah. he seems to be like another like antithesis to Oliver Stone, where he's got like strong political ideas, but he's like, he's pointing them in the correct direction.
Yeah, he seems to understand that like how society works a little better than Oliver Stone. Like, why did this thing happen? And it was like clearly it was the shadow government.
Yeah.
Like, which seems to be his go-to for every problem he runs into.
Yeah, and I mean, if I could just obviously have to bring up Star Wars now, and I don't think we're gonna do an episode on Andor, but like he was being asked.
May the 4th we'll do something.
All right, but I'll just say like people were interviewing him about Andor, and like, well, this seems very inspired by like current events and political events, and like inspiring people.
And then he was like, "Nah, it was inspired by Stalin."
Yeah, and he's like, he's spouting like Marxist theories in like interviews, and I'm just like, oh my God. He's like, if you just study any like revolutionary text throughout human history, like these things are bound to happen. It's not just like modern events; it's kind of all culture and society. And I was like, all right, this guy, he's got his finger on the pulse. Good writer.
Good job,
show.
Buddy. Yeah. Trying to think of what else I definitely want to go into, because there's a lot of scenes that I want to talk about. I mean, there's the ridiculous. Well, all right. So like he gets out of politics, he's out for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
He eventually, like, the shadow government comes to him. And it's like, Kennedy might not run. And then that ends up not really being that much of a factor. What ends up really being a factor is LBJ being like, I will not seek re-election. That's really what opens the window for him. And his only real rival in that election is RFK, who is also assassinated. So, hey, weird time to be alive. He becomes president, and then nothing bad happened. We can talk about the RNC speech, which is another wild one. Which is weird when you watch it, and it's like that is just the Republican Party's like entire like alleged philosophy to this day, which is them being like. we're not. There's a great America out there that is not the people like, it's not the protesters, it's not the people doing sit-ins, it's not the educated people, it's the great silent majority of hardworking Americans. Like, that's when he does that whole speech.
Mhm.
And it's like, that is such the attitude of conservatism, right?
Yeah.
Like, that the actual people that anyone that wants change is bad. And it's actually everyone that's really good is someone who doesn't question too much and just works hard. But
What's that one Community episode where they have to do like a quick election because Joe Biden is going to visit, so they need like a student body like running the show, and so like Jeff goes to make reveal it as a sham, that politics are a sham, right? So when he goes up on stage and everyone's doing their introductory speech, he's like, Annie's like, I think we need to fix Greendale. He's like, are you saying Greendale's dirty? Because I think Greendale's perfect. I like freedom. I think terrorism is bad. And, America, I think that's just a little better. And everyone's like, woo! It's like, yeah, that's kind of the more conservative, approach. That's just how these people talk,
It's kind of amazing how that works, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really just don't understand it.
Well, because it's comforting to think, we just need everything to be normal. There is no normal. Of course, right?
Yeah.
But everyone thinks I just need things to calm down. I just need to be able to take care of myself and my family. And it's like, all right, that doesn't help anything. that means nothing. Of course you have to do that. That means literally nothing outside of the context of the sentence that you just spoke. That is a nebulous, non-existent phrase. You're not going to do anything.
You reminded me of the one scene where we see that Nixon has kind of mastered television for this campaign, where he does the town hall. Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
Also, it should be mentioned that the Clinton era actually really influenced this movie, because a lot of what Nixon ended up being really good at, later in terms of a politician, is what Clinton was really good at. Clinton was really good at going on Arsenio Hall and stuff and coming across as a cool dude.
Yeah.
And Nixon goes on TV and he has that. The black guy gets up and kind of asks him a real grilling question, right?
Mm-hmm. And
Nixon just shuts him the fuck down, basically, and he goes back and he's like, well, I would remember Martin Luther King called for nonviolence and shit like that. That's a wild scene.
Yeah.
But also probably pretty accurate.
Also, the idea that the white people are always the ones to go well, the great Martin Luther King, whenever they would just want to shout down anybody who's protesting or whatever.
Yeah. I guess, you know what, there's only really one scene I think I want to talk about, because I think it leads to other things in this movie, which is a big, something I really noticed rewatching it. There is the scene where Nixon goes to the Lincoln Memorial, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's just had a meeting with all his guys where they're talking about triangular diplomacy, which is the idea of we don't actually have to win in Vietnam. We just have to stay long enough to cause enough friction between Vietnam and China, and then we need to keep the friction on between Vietnam and Russia. Just keep them from being allies. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole thing. And that's where he basically says, that's why we're going to bomb Cambodia, which was an illegal thing that we did. And it's triangular diplomacy, which I believe is a Kissinger term. I believe that comes from him. So there's that, and he's like, why can't these stupid kids who are protesting me understand what I'm trying to do? In his mind, he's like, look, this makes perfect sense. Once I do this, then we will it'll lead to, stabilization and peace in the world. They just got to let me blow the fuck out of Cambodia. And it's odd. It's just odd that, the movie's a little on his side at that point. Mm-hmm. And but then he does that thing where he's like, I'll even drop the big one if I have to. And everyone at the table's like, okay, let's not do that. But... and then he goes off and he's like, he has that moment, he's like, my younger brother died when I was just a child, and tuberculosis, terrible thing. Like he does like a whole like speech about it, and it's this weird like, oh, this is what's really going on under Nixon. He's just a broken child, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, come on now. All right, then he goes to the Lincoln Memorial, and all the protesters are sleeping out there, right?
Right.
And Nixon's like, I want to give him the old Nixon charm. Like he thinks he'll be able to charm these kids. And there's like this whole back and talk with him, and he keeps like trying to do the Nixon thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I bet you think I'm a real jackass, but let me tell you, I'm on your side actually, and I just want you to understand. And it ends with the hippie girl being like, you can't even stop this. Like this is all out of your hands, you know? And it's this weird, like, and Nixon's like, he goes back to, I think, Haldeman, and he's like, that girl, she took her 5 minutes to figure out what it took me 30 years to learn about politics or something. And that's when the whole temperature of the movie changes after that point, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Then Nixon is like, okay, I'm going to stop pretending I'm doing this for good. I am just going to go to war with this whole system, and I'm going to become the most powerful guy on the planet. Like, that's when the movie shifts. And he has another meeting later with the shadow government people. And remember it ends with the guy being like, are you threatening us? He's like, or is that a threat? And he's like, presidents don't have to threat. They just do. Like, he says something like that. Mm-hmm. So this movie is an odd endorsement of authoritarianism. This movie, it eventually says Nixon is doing what people believe what QAnon believes Donald Trump is doing.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Completely. And like this is honestly kind of a discussion that we ended up leaning into a little bit with the JFK one too.
Yeah, this is just, I think, a logical extension of it.
No, it is. Because now it's like, because, JFK is about the mystery, the espionage aspect, like the uncovering of this dark truth. And this is like, well, this is the face of it. This is the
face of it, but also the only way to stop it is for someone to become authoritarian enough to go after him.
Yeah.
Which is what Nixon is trying. Nixon goes to war with the deep state, basically.
The fictional Nixon fighting a fictional organization.
Mm-hmm. And that is exactly what QAnon wanted Donald Trump to do. QAnon's whole thing was they wanted Donald Trump to be more authoritarian so he would go to war with the deep state.
Yeah. Which
is run by a cabal of pedophiles that answer to the Lord Satan. That's what QAnon actually believes. Just want everyone to know that. Just want everyone to be aware.
And we're joking about it. That is a very scary thing that they believe. It's horribly
ridiculous, but it's also what they believe.
Yeah, and like the mere existence of that belief makes them like a very dangerous component of society right now, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's religious fanaticism.
Yeah.
Which has had a huge undercurrent. Which is one thing that Nixon doesn't really tap into. That is Reagan. Reagan is really the one that elevates the religious right, which some people don't want to talk about, but hey. Mm. Reagan believed in like numerology and shit like that.
No, I didn't know that.
Like he was like, if numbers like added up to like unlucky numbers, he wouldn't go places.
Oh my God.
He wouldn't stay there was an address that was like 666 once and he wouldn't go there. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So
it's actually funny. So one of my license plates had like 666 and then like another 6 in it later, right? And I don't give a fuck. But a family member was like, you can call to get that changed if you ever want to. And I was like, no, I'm that's fine. I don't care. Like it's.
Well, it's also like like how when you go into hotels and there isn't a 13th floor, it just goes from 12 to 14.
Mm.
If it's tall enough, and you're like, what are we all just lying?
Yeah.
Like, it's still the 13th floor. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
But
hey. Like again, this is stupidity that stems from a very real fear. That's why it's like the Nixon and JFK bullshit fucking movies stemming from genuine insecurities and anxieties.
Yeah, it's genuine insecurities that like our government is essentially answering just to itself and other powerful people, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't actually have our best interest in mind. Democracy is a sham. Like these are all real fears and real problems we deal with. The thing is that these guys then go to this step where it's like, well, that's why we need an authoritarian. And it's something that people genuinely believe. And I think it's why, up until recently, this whole country seemed to have a love fest with fucking Vladimir Putin. Like, there were the Republican Party seemed to love that guy, primarily because he was so authoritarian. Like, I think this country, deep down, huge chunks of it just want an authoritarian leader. And this movie kind of argues that maybe Nixon authoritarian would be okay if he's going up against the deep state. Like, I don't know if that's what Oliver Stone intended, but that's the vibe you get by the end of it.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair to say.
Because like a lot of it is him. Like there's the scene which was deleted in the theatrical cut where he meets with the head of the CIA, played by what's his name? Oh God, Sam Waterston as Richard Helms, the director of the CIA, which is like kind of like just a scene of those two standing off, and that being like they each have dirt on each other, and it's like mutually assured destruction because they both had a hand in the Bay of Pigs fiasco, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so there's kind of that. I gotta give a shout out to a guy though. I mentioned him in the JFK episode, but I'm bringing him up here again. An actor named Roy Barnett, who passed away in the year 2000. He has 3 credits under his belt. He was only in 3 movies. He was in JFK as Clay Shaw's lawyer. Do you remember?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And he shows up in the director's cut of JFK as Bob Cushman, who is the dude who Nixon has installed in the CIA to like keep an eye on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where he's like talking, he's like, "What have you heard?" He's like, "They won't let me see anything." He's a big guy. He's like a really tall guy, right? He towers over Anthony Hopkins, and he's got such a presence. And he's only on screen he's on screen in JFK more, but he's like overshadowed by the whole like conspiracy of it all. But he still makes an impression. And here he's only in this movie for like maybe 3 minutes and leaves a hell of an impression. Like I really liked him in this.
Yeah, me too.
And it's a shame. I don't know like what his deal was. Like if he wasn't like a professional actor, and he just knew Oliver Stone through something. Because he's only in 2 Oliver Stone movies and then a movie called Harvest, which I've never heard of. But I just wanted to give that guy a shout out because goddamn, I love character actors, and this is just like a feast of character actors.
Yeah, I mean that's another one of the strengths of both this and JFK. It's like these fucking casts. They're just like it is like an embarrassment of riches of performances, even when they are like I call this and JFK embarrassing. Like just watching these actors like fucking chew up the scenery. There is like a great like pleasure in that.
Yeah. And a director who's just not going to stop them.
Yeah.
Like, just like go for it. Mao Zedong is in this.
Yes. Played by Rick Young, who was in Temple of Doom.
He's been in a ton of shit.
Yeah.
Like character actor type. He does a good job.
Yes, he does.
It's nice seeing him. And that's kind of like the one, like even people who hate Nixon will kind of give him credit for quote unquote opening up China, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but a lot of that has to do more with the fact that the Soviets were so terrible at being diplomatic to China. I believe Mao came to stay in Russia at one point. I think when Stalin was still alive. I could be wrong about this. And he found out that the Russians were actually stealing his shit and going through it to see if there was anything in it. So the relationship between Russia and China soured eventually. how is the world as insane as this movie actually is, just in a different insane way?
You know, I don't really have an answer, but I I don't mean this in an endorsement way, but I am glad it is, because I will never stop being surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, I would like to be less surprised when bad things happen, or
Yes.
more surprised when bad things happen, so they can become rarer. You know.
Yes.
But it's, I don't know. World's complicated, and trying to siphon the chaotic energy of the universe into these movies did probably like exacerbate the destruction of Oliver Stone's brain.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Larry Hagman from Dallas was in this.
I've never seen Dallas. Should I watch Dallas?
No.
Okay.
But, it was kind of like a cultural touchstone when it was on. So maybe like just look up some stuff about it.
I mean,
He lived long enough to be on the reboot of Dallas, which I think was the last thing he did.
oh, good for him.
He was JR. You know that, right?
Yeah,
Who
yeah, I
shot
know
JR.
who shot JR, and the whole season
Yeah.
was a dream. The whole
Yeah.
that was like legendary, even when I was like a kid.
Basically invented like every cliche for television for the next 30 years.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
He played a guy named Jack Jones, who's supposed to kind of represent like billionaires who invested in Nixon, people like Howard Hughes and shit like that. Which, the Howard Hughes donation and stuff like Jimmy Hoffa funneling him money. That might be Nixon might have had a hand in Hoffa's disappearance, because if he found out he was dealing with the mob, Nixon, maybe wouldn't want that to get found out.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey. I'm just going through the cast. I want to make sure we don't miss anyone.
Only in the director's cut, but Sam Waterston's in this.
I mentioned Sam Waterston.
Yeah. I really like Sam Waterston though. I wanna shout him out because he's getting up there. He was in Grace and Frankie that I really loved. In terms of like modern sitcoms, I think it's one of the better ones by, or at least one of the funnier ones by like a pretty significant margin. So I just extra shout out to him.
We have Edward Herman, who I didn't realize passed away in like 2014. Who was a very fun character actor. He popped up in a million things. He plays Nelson Rockefeller, who was vice president under Gerald Ford at a certain point. And I believe he ran. Does he run with Barry Goldwater?
I don't know.
Was he on the Goldwater ticket?
Let me see.
No,
it doesn't look like it.
So. But yeah, Barry Goldwater. Another thing, Barry Goldwater that's what I thought the Trump campaign was going to be, where you had Barry Goldwater, who runs in '64, who was like this insane radical, and has like all these insane policies, and basically gets destroyed in the landslide by Lyndon B. Johnson, but basically gives the framework for someone like Nixon to do the moderate Barry Goldwater campaign, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I thought Trump was going to do, except Trump ended up winning. That's the one where, have you ever seen the ad? It's a very famous ad where it's a little girl picking daisies, I believe. And she's doing the, like, he loves me not. Like, she's doing something like this. Or some nursery rhyme. And then suddenly there's, like, a flash of light.
Oh,
and
yes.
Like and then it's like, it could happen at any time. Who do you want who do you want with their finger above the button? And it's like, not Barry Goldwater, motherfucker. Which is basically the tenor of that ad. And Hillary, I don't know if people remember this, Hillary tried to run a very similar ad. Do you remember this?
I fucking don't. What?
Some guy, she didn't run, like, it wasn't as shocking as that, which is probably why it didn't work. But she got a guy who, used to work at, like, one of the guys used to oversee our nuclear weapons, right? Mm-hmm. And it was basically him going on the air being like, look, I oversaw all our nuclear stockpile for years. I don't want like someone like Donald Trump having access to that. Like, that was basically his age. Like, I think it's very dangerous. And it was very clear that Hillary was trying to tap into that vibe, right? Mm-hmm. That she was trying to portray Trump as a lunatic. And then people were like, that's what we like about him. So Didn't work out too well.
No.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Would have helped to nominate someone with any actual charisma.
Yeah, it would.
Although then again, we nominated a corpse 4 years later, and he ended up winning.
Yeah.
So
well,
I don't know.
I think enough people woke up to the Maniac problem that like a corpse looked pretty good in retrospect. Now, would that have been my choice? No.
No.
I would have gotten someone people liked, so you could have had a slam dunk instead of a kind of stressful 24 hours. But whatever.
Yeah, that was like I like, not to be too melodramatic, but I don't think I got out of bed for 2 days around that election.
That was a tough one.
That was a tough one because it was that weird one where like it looked like he might win for the beginning because the early red wave, remember?
Yeah.
And then it was that thing of like I had to keep telling myself like the polls are way more in Biden's favor than they even were for Hillary back in the other election, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I had to keep telling myself that, but I'm also like I don't want to look at anything. And then finally, I think when I got out of bed was right around the time that they called it for Pennsylvania, which was my state, and that's when I was like, okay, things worked out. And then I just saw people dressed as Gritty running in the street.
No, the reactions to Trump losing were incredible. That was that made me proud to be an American for the first time in like my entire life.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't solve every problem, obviously. I think people that listen to us or know us understand where we're coming from, but that moment felt good.
Yeah, to bring up the Onion again. They had a great headline, which was "Jubilant reaction to Trump defeat quickly soured by news of Biden win." Which that pretty much summed up my feelings at the time.
Yeah,
It was nice seeing like a huge part of the country just be like, "Fuck that guy."
Yeah. That just made me feel good about like the country in general. Because it was like, oh yeah, most people didn't want him to be president. Like enough people did that it's concerning that we're not dealing with certain systemic rooted issues in the country still. But the idea that like, oh no, most people don't like him. Like that's good, It's like we're getting all gerrymandering and shit like that, and like why red states are so red, even though like there's plenty of people who are not waving red flags.
Yeah. Well, so think of like overwhelmingly in every election, more people vote Democrat, and still ends up being usually a 50-50 split with Republicans.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how it is, because that's how the system is designed. I mean, think about it. 21st century, every election I've been aware of, a Republican has only won the popular vote for president once in the 21st century. And we have had, at this point, 3 terms of Republicans and now 3 terms of Democrats, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's crazy to think about. They've had equal amount of time, but only actually won the popular vote once.
Yeah.
So,
and when you explain that to people in other countries, they're like, wait, what? And it's like, no, I agree. Yeah. It's fucked up. It should not happen. It is not a functioning democracy.
No, it isn't.
And the mere fact that people aren't even saying that when Nixon comes out is probably how you get movies like Nixon.
Yeah.
Which are not many, it's literally just Oliver Stone, basically. But I think worth noting, and versus now where people are like, hey, this isn't like working. We're not going to get movies like Nixon anymore. Which is good, maybe. Yeah. But like, that does give this NJFK sort of like an air of like legacy and not nostalgia. Definitely not nostalgia for me, but like they're that perfect cultural artifact right before things start shifting in the public consciousness,
We should, one more character I want to shout out. We got David Hyde Pierce in this.
Yes.
From Frasier. As John Dean, who ends up being the first person to testify in front of Congress about Watergate. He shows up late in the game, but he's a big impact on the movie. Mm-hmm. So, I like this movie ultimately.
I still do too.
But it's still very good in my opinion. I don't know if I have anything else to say about the actual movie.
No,
I'm gonna check it out. I like it.
Yeah, I would recommend it to our listeners. I would be hesitant to recommend it to people who are like, "What movies do you want to watch?" or "What movie should I watch this week?" I wouldn't say that. Like let's.
Well, if you got like a weekend where nothing is happening and you're feeling a little chill,
No,
maybe throw it on.
I don't know
'Cause
about that.
It'll take up your whole day.
I'll get a phone call and be like, "Hey, where the fuck did you recommend that movie to me?" Yeah, I think now we can wind down. This is I would recommend it as well.
I would like to end it, and it's going to be a bit of a long read, but I would like to read from, and I will interject in it. I would like to read from Hunter S. Thompson's statement on the death of Richard Nixon.
All right, let's fucking do it.
Which he wrote for The Atlantic, titled "He Was a Crook," by Hunter S. Thompson. Richard Nixon is gone now, and I'm the poorer for it. He was the real thing, a political monster straight out of Grendel, and a very dangerous enemy. He could shake your hand and stab you in the back at the same time. He lied to his friends and betrayed the trust of his family. Not even Gerald Ford, the unhappy ex-president who pardoned Nixon and kept him out of prison, was immune to the evil fallout. Ford, who believes strongly in heaven and hell, has told more than one of his celebrity golf partners that, "I know I will go to hell because I pardoned Richard Nixon." That's a hell of an opening.
Jesus Christ, yeah, I love it.
I've had my own bloody relationship with Nixon for many years, but I am not worried about it landing me in hell with him. I have already been there with that bastard, and I am a better person for it. Nixon had the unique ability to make his enemies seem honorable, and we developed a keen sense of fraternity. Some of my best friends have hated Nixon all their lives. My mother hates Nixon. My son hates Nixon. I hate Nixon. And this hatred has brought us together. Nixon laughed when I told him this. "Don't worry," he said. "I, too, am a family man. And we feel the same way about that." About you, I mean. Which is just wild. There's also, I don't believe he brings it up here, there is the story that Hunter S. Thompson ended up in the back of a limo with Nixon. And they ended up talking football. And Hunter S. Thompson wrote about how he contemplated suicide because he couldn't live on this earth knowing that he had Nixon related to something with each other. Which is just wild. Oh, you know what we should bring up before I forget? I'll go back to the statement. George McGovern, who ran against Nixon, which is like brushed over really quickly in this.
That is weird that's brushed over. I mean, like we talked about, a lot of stuff's brushed over, but yeah, go ahead. It is strange.
He's defeated in like a massive landslide, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and some people point that he's like kind of the last real liberal ever nominated for president. And it was one of those things where when it looked like Bernie might win the nomination, he was compared to unfavorably to George McGovern. Do you remember this?
Yes.
And I'm trying to remember who the guy was. I'm just trying to look up the name. Give me a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just cut this silence.
No.
You should. It'll be boring for the audience.
If they made it this far. No, I'm just kidding. I'll trim it.
Yes. Eagleton. He initially picked Eagleton as his VP nominee, and Nixon had a shit ton of dirt on him, including that he had spent time in a mental hospital, and he was quickly replaced on the ticket, and that was kind of like this killing blow to the McGovern campaign. And of course, as Nixon was falling apart during the Watergate scandal, that's when you saw a lot of "Don't blame me, I voted for McGovern" buttons that became very popular. And I think I own a few, actually. I think I went on eBay one night and bought a bunch. If you want to know what I do with my spare time. And then you see, to this day, you see stuff like, I don't know if you've seen a lot of these, but there's a lot of people being like, don't blame me, I voted for Trump. Which they did the same thing after Bush, after Obama took over. Do you remember that too?
I do. That I do. I remember. It was like,
There was a lot of, it was Bush's face with "Miss Me Yet," remember?
yeah.
That was probably, and it was like, Bush couldn't run a third time.
Yeah.
It was weird. It was like they didn't even want to acknowledge that McCain had been their guy.
Yeah.
McCain, another dude who's dead.
Yeah. Very funny circumstance though, where it's like, yeah, bad guy. But Trump made the heinous mistake of criticizing Arizona's second
Vietnam
favorite person.
prisoner of war.
And Arizona's second favorite person after Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. That's kind of what also cost him the election. Like, oh, man. See what I mean? Politics are so fucking frivolous.
I know. They're so dumb. It would be hysterical if they didn't directly affect our lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, yeah, things are fucked up. All right. I'll get back to Hunter S. Thompson now.
Oh, yes.
It was Richard Nixon who got me into politics, and now that he's gone, I feel lonely. He was a giant in his way. As long as Nixon was politically alive, and he was, all the way to the end, we could always be sure of finding the enemy on the low road. There was no need to look anywhere else for the evil bastard. He had the fighting instincts of a badger trapped by hounds. The badger will roll over on its back and emit a smell of death, which confuses the dogs and lures them in for the traditional ripping and tearing action. But it is usually the badger who does the ripping and tearing. It is a beast that fights best on its back, rolling under the throat of the enemy and seizing it by the head with all four claws. So he had a different take on Nixon than Oliver Stone.
I love it, though. Oh, my God.
Oh, it's good. I'm Hunter S. Thompson, he was a lunatic, but I do miss him some days. I feel like he would not be great right now, unfortunately. But
yeah.
But hey, that was Nixon's style. And if you forgot, he would kill you as a lesson to the others. Badgers don't fight fair, Bubba. That's why God made dachshunds. Nixon was a Navy man, and he should have been buried at sea. Many of his friends were seagoing people. These are a lot of the fucking conservative guys like B.B. Rebozo, Robert Vesco, William F. Buckley Jr., who that guy hung in for a fucking way longer than he should have. And some of them wanted a full naval burial. These come in at least two styles, however, and Nixon's immediate family strongly opposed both of them. In the traditional style, the dead president's body would be wrapped and sewn loosely in a canvas of sailcloth and dumped off the stern of a frigate at least 100 miles off the coast and at least 1,000 miles south of San Diego, so that the corpse could never wash up on American soil in any recognizable form. The family opted for cremation until they were advised of the potentially onerous implications of a strictly private, unwitnessed burning of the body of a man who was, after all, the President of the United States. Awkward questions might be raised, dark allusions to Hitler and Rasputin. People would be filing lawsuits to get their hands on the dental charts. Long court battles would be inevitable, some with liberal clanks bitching about corpus delicti and habeas corpus, and others with giant insurance companies trying not to pay off on his death benefits.
Good Lord.
Either way, an orgy of greed and duplicity was sure to follow any public hint that Nixon might have somehow faked his own death or been cryologically transferred to fascist Chinese interest on the Central Asian mainland. Yeah, he didn't like Nixon.
No, I got the sense. I wasn't completely sure, but it's good that you specified that. Yeah. Wow, what a fucking... I mean, it's Hunter S. Thompson. What a fucking writer.
Yeah.
Again, like you mentioned, probably good that he's not around.
Yeah.
But wow, that's about as good.
He's got more. He's got more.
Oh shit! Oh please continue.
If the right people had been in charge of Nixon's funeral, his casket would have been launched into one of those open sewage canals that empty into the ocean just south of Los Angeles. He was a swine of a man and a jabbering dupe of a president. Nixon was so crooked that he needed servants to help him screw his pants on every morning. Even his funeral was illegal. He was queer in the deepest sense. His body should have been burned in a trash bin. These are harsh words for a man who only recently canonized by the President of the United States and by my old friend George McGovern. But I have written worse things about Nixon many times, and the record will show that I kicked him repeatedly long before he went down. I beat him like a mad dog with mange every time, and I got a I got a chance. I managed every time I got a chance, and I am proud of it. He was scum. Let there be no mistake in the history books about that. Richard Nixon was an evil man. Evil in a way that only those who believe in the physical reality of the devil can understand. He was utterly without ethics or morals, or any bedrock sense of decency. Nobody trusted him, except maybe the Stalinist Chinese, and the honest historians will remember him mainly as a rat who kept scrambling to get back on the ship.
I might have to stand and applaud right now.
There's a lot more, but I think I can cut it short there.
No, you don't have to. This is amazing.
Do you want me to keep going?
Fuck it, keep going.
All right.
Apologies to the listeners if you're not into
yes,
this, but
I
too
don't know if
bad.
anyone else is interested in it.
No.
I,
At least end on the strongest note.
It's also just in direct opposition to the actual movie. So I think it's a good note to end on because it's what Nixon is. I think it's closer to who Nixon really was. So it's fitting that Richard Nixon's final gesture to the American people was a clearly illegal series of 21 105 millimeter Howard's blasters that shattered the peace of a residential neighborhood and permanently disturbed many children. They're talking about, the firing guns at his funeral, right? Mm-hmm. Neighbors also complained about the other unsanctioned burial in the yard at the old Nixon place, which was brazenly illegal. It makes the whole neighborhood like a graveyard, said one, and it fucks up my children's sense of values. Many were incensed about the Howitzers, but they knew there was nothing that could be done about it. Not without the current president sitting about 50 yards away and laughing at the roar of the cannons. It was Nixon's last war, and he won. So, that's a dark one to think about.
Yeah.
The funeral was a dreary affair, finally staged for TV and shrewdly dominated by ambitious politicians and revisionist historians. The Reverend Billy Graham, still agile and eloquent at the age of 136, was billed as the main speaker, but he was quickly upstaged by two 1996 GOP presidential candidates, Senator Bob Dole of Kansas and Governor Pete Wilson of California, who formally hosted the event and saw his poll numbers crippled when he got blown off the stage by Dole, who somehow seized the number 3 slot on the roster and uttered such a shameless, self-serving eulogy that even he burst into tears at the end of it. And this is true. The Dole basically launched his campaign off of this. And he got the nomination and lost, but hey, he got the nomination. Dole's stock went up like a rocket and cast him as the early GOP frontrunner for 96. Wilson, speaking next, sounded like an Engelbert Humperdinck impersonator, and probably wouldn't even be reelected as governor of California in November. Historians were strongly represented by the number 2 speaker, Henry Kissinger, Nixon's Secretary of State, and himself a zealous revisionist with many axes to grind. He set the tone for the day with a maudlin and spectacularly self-serving portrait of Nixon as even more saintly than his mother and as a president of many godlike accomplishments, most of them put together in secret by Kissinger, who came to California as part of a huge publicity tour for his new book on diplomacy. Genius, Stalin, H.P. Lovecraft, and other great minds of our time, including himself and Richard Nixon. I mean, Jesus. Kissinger was only one of the many historians who suddenly came to see Nixon as more than the sum of his many squalid parts. He seemed to be saying that history will not have to absolve Nixon, because he was already done it himself in the massive act of will and crazed arrogance that already ranks him supreme, alongside other Nietzschean supermen like Hitler, Jesus, Bismarck, and the Emperor Hirohito. The revisionists have catapulted Nixon to the status of an American Caesar, claiming that that when the definitive history of the 21st century is written, no other president will come close to Nixon in that stature. He will dwarf FDR and Truman, according to one scholar from Duke University. It was all gibberish, of course. Nixon was no more a saint than he was a great president. He was more like Sammy Glick than Winston Churchill. He was a cheap crook and a merciless war criminal who bombed more people to death in Laos and Cambodia than the U.S. Army lost in all of World War II, and he denied it to the day of his death. When students at Kent University in Ohio protested the bombing, he connived to have them attacked and slain by the troops of the National Guard. Some people will say that words like scum and rotten are wrong for objective journalism, which is true, but they miss the point. It was the built-in blind spot of the objective rules and dogma that allowed Nixon to slither into the White House in the first place. He looked so good on paper that you could almost vote for him sight unseen. He seemed so all-American, so much like Horatio Alger, that he was able to slip through the cracks of objective journalism. You had to get subjective to see Nixon clearly, and the shock of recognition was often painful. I mean, I think that's a really important thing to point out.
Mm-hmm.
Nixon's meteoric rise from the unemployment line to the vice presidency in 6 quick years would never have happened if TV had come along 10 years earlier. He got away with the sleazy "My Dog Checkers" speech in 1952 because most voters heard it on the radio or read about it in headlines of their local Republican newspapers. When Nixon finally had to face the TV cameras for real in 1960 campaign debates, he got whipped like a red-headed mule. Even diehard Republican voters were shocked by his cruel and incompetent persona. Interestingly, most people who heard those debates on the radio thought Nixon had won, but the mushrooming TV audience saw him as a truthless used car salesman, and they voted accordingly. It was the first time in 14 years Nixon had lost an election. When he arrived in the White House as VP at the age of 40, he was a smart young man on the rise, a hubris-crazed monster from the bowels of the American dream, with a heart full of hate and an overweening lust to be president. He had won every office he'd run for and stomped like a Nazi on all of his enemies and even some of his friends. Nixon had no friends except George Will and J. Edgar Hoover, and they both deserted him. It was Hoover's shameless death in 1972 that led directly to Nixon's downfall. He felt helpless and alone with Hoover gone. He no longer had access to either the director or the director's ghastly bank of personal files on almost everyone in Washington. Hoover was Nixon's right flank, and when he croaked, Nixon knew how Lee felt when Stonewall Jackson got killed at Chancellorsville. It permanently exposed Lee's flank and led to the disaster at Gettysburg. For Nixon, the loss of Hoover led inevitably to the disaster of Watergate. It meant hiring a new director, who turned out to be an unfortunate toady named L. Patrick Gray, who squealed like a pig in hot oil for the first time Nixon leaned on him. Gray panicked and fingered White House counsel John Dean, who refused to take the rap and rolled over instead on Nixon, who was trapped like a rat by Dean's relentless, vengeful testimony and went all to pieces right in front of our eyes on TV. That is Watergate in a nut for people who, with seriously diminished attention spans. The real story is a lot longer and reads like a textbook on human treachery. They were all scum, but only Nixon walked away free and lived to clear his name. Or at least that's what Bill Clinton says. And he is, after all, the President of the United States. This is, of course, written before Clinton himself was impeached, which is kind of interesting. Nixon liked to remind people of that. He believed it, and that was why he went down. He was not only a crook but a fool. 2 years after he quit, he told a TV journalist that if a president does it, it can't be illegal. Shit, not even Spiro Agnew was that dumb. He was a flat-out, knee-crawling thug with the morals of a weasel on speed, but he was Nixon's vice president for 5 years, and he only resigned when he was caught red-handed taking cash bribes across the desk in the White House. Unlike Nixon, Agnew didn't argue. He quit his job and fled in the night to Baltimore, where he appeared the next morning in U.S. District Court, which allowed him to stay out of prison for bribery and extortion in exchange for a guilty, no contest plea on income tax evasion. After that, he became a major celebrity and played golf and tried to get a Coors distribution. He never spoke to Nixon again and was an unwelcome guest at the funeral. They called him rude, but he went away. It was one of those biological imperatives, like salmon swimming up waterfalls, to spawn before they die. He knew he was scum, but it didn't bother him. Agnew was the Joey Buttafuoco of the Nixon administration, and Hoover was its Caligula. They were brutal, brain-damaged degenerates, worse than any hitman out of The Godfather. Yet they were the men Richard Nixon trusted most. Together they defined his presidency. It's interesting, Agnew's barely in Nixon, by the way, which is interesting. It would be easy to forget and forgive Henry Kissinger of his crimes, just as he forgave Nixon. Yes, we could do that, but it would be wrong. Kissinger is a slippery little devil, a world-class hustler with a thick German accent and a very keen eye for weak spots at the top of power structures. Nixon was one of those, and Super K exploited him mercilessly all the way to the end. Kissinger made the Gang of Four complete: Agnew, Hoover, Kissinger, and Nixon. A group photo of these perverts would say all we need to know about the age of Nixon. Nixon's spirit will be with us for the rest of our lives. Whether you're me or Bill Clinton or you or Kurt Cobain or Bishop Tutu or Keith Richards or Amy Fisher or Boris Yeltsin's daughter or your fiance's 16-year-old beer-drunk brother with his brain-dead goatee and his whole life like a thundercloud out in front of him. This is not a generational thing. You don't even have to know who Richard Nixon was to be a victim of his ugly Nazi spirit. He has poisoned our water forever. Nixon will be remembered as a classic case of a smart man shitting in his own nest. But he has also shit in our nest, and that was the crime that history will burn on his memory like a brand. By disgracing and degrading the presidency of the United States, by fleeing the White House like a diseased cur, Richard Nixon broke the heart of the American dream. Hunter S. Thompson, June 16th, 1994.
God fucking damn.
So,
what a writer.
Another opinion. Yeah. When I'm reading this at 13, the only two people I want to be as a teenager are Hunter S. Thompson and Nathan Lane. Which at some point I realized it was very difficult to reconcile those two ones.
Well, here's another positive we can end on after that note. Nathan Lane is, in fact, the third build in Ari Aster's new movie, so...
Nice to see. No fucking idea what that movie is.
No idea either, but the time of recording, that trailer just dropped today. No idea.
Dropped today.
But Nathan Lane getting that much screen time in the trailer, I was like, oh shit, he's like in it. I'm so happy.
Right. Although it looks like it's going to be a bit of a road movie, so I'm guessing we're going to hang with Nathan Lane for a bit, and then he'll leave.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, I'm going to watch that on the biggest screen possible for Nathan Lane.
God damn it.
Yeah.
We got to find an excuse to do Mouse Hunt.
It was a hit, huh?
Yeah, it was.
Goddamn.
Failed awards contender, Mouse Hunt.
Gore Verbinski retrospective.
Well, we can't do that.
I think we can.
No, we cannot.
He doesn't have that many movies. It's totally acceptable.
Yeah, but he has 4 that are... No, he has 5 that would not be fun to talk about.
Are you sure? Let me think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6. No, you can kind of Rango gets by even with that central actor.
I'm not going to say why, but they would be
Okay.
difficult. They would be
Yeah,
difficult.
yeah. No, you're right. You're right. We'll find a way at some point.
We'll find a way to do Mouse Hunt on here.
Yeah.
All right, so we've seen Oliver Stone's Nixon, and we just heard Hunter S. Thompson's whole take on Nixon, written right after his death. To this day, there are still a lot of debates about who really was Richard Nixon, right? And it might be a little harder for us to understand who Nixon was, since like he said, like he died when I was just born, and we didn't we didn't live through the Nixon era, and so it's like this question of was he evil or not? I guess is a question, whether or not you believe in evil. But like, was he truly a bad person, or was he just what any other president was, and he just got caught? Really, I don't know if I can speak to that, but I can tell you, I have an opinion, and it goes to a very specific video. You can find it on YouTube. Type in Nixon before resignation and full speech, August 8th, 1974. It's from an account said Media Burn Archive. It's about a 22-minute video. We're not going to watch the whole thing here. Just I would recommend the listeners look for it. It is Nixon getting ready to go on TV and resign from the presidency of the United States, right? Something that has never happened in United States history. He's about to do the unthinkable. He is essentially going on the air and admitting to guilt without admitting to guilt, right? Totally devastating, as Hunter S. Thompson put at the end of his obituary for Nixon, is that Richard Nixon, this is the moment where Richard Nixon officially breaks the heart of the American dream. Our country is never the same after this moment, right? It's a very big deal. Nixon is fucking goofing around with the film crew. It's Nixon being like, hey, what's going on? I haven't seen you in a while. And then it's like, hey, you're a blonde, right? And it's like, oh, hey, you got to watch out for these guys. He's like making jokes. There's one where he's like, oh, don't point the camera at me too long. I think he's going to catch me picking my nose. I got to tell you that there's a lot of a lot of takeaways from this video. In fact, a lot of the comments on here are like, a lot of comments are like, wow, I've never seen this side of Nixon before, or something like that. To me, this video is like staring into the face of true evil. I think this is what evil looks like, honestly. That he's about to go on the air and do something unprecedented, and there is not a hint of tension or any sort of unease about what he's about to do. There's nothing there. That's You might not feel the same way as me. I recommend everyone check it out. To me, it's one of the fucking eeriest things I've ever seen. Like that, it's upsetting.
We
It's
Well, we've definitely brought it up before. I don't remember when. Maybe it was a JFK episode, but
oh, I might have brought up the Nixon
no,
thing.
not the Nixon thing. But there's footage of Adolf Hitler joking
Oh, yeah.
around with a woman filming him, and he's like
Yeah.
flirting with her. He's doing normal human things because at the end of the day, these terrible people are just
Well, no.
human.
There's a big difference. Big difference. Big. I'm doing the hand motions
Okay.
because I'm Italian. Big difference. That is that footage. Yes, true. Hitler. He's a human being, but that's him in his private life, right?
Mhm.
This is Nixon. He's about to go on the air. He's about to announce his resignation. This is a big fucking deal, as Joe Biden would say. This is huge. And he's acting like it's any other fucking thing. Whatever he was able to do, he's able to compartmentalize the gravity of what he's about to do. And there are some things like in the moment, yes, you have to do it, right? Mm-hmm. There are other things that I should at least see some sign of hesitation in him, right?
Right.
Like, I love listening. I love, like, a guilty pleasure of mine. I hate to admit it. I do like watching videos of police interrogations online because it's interesting to watch how human beings react in situations like that. And people reveal different sides of themselves when put under pressure. And it's someone that doesn't that you should be worried about, you know? Mm-hmm. Someone that is able to keep up whatever facade they have under tremendous pressure is the scariest motherfucker in the room.
Okay, I see what you mean, yeah.
And that is Nixon. And the only other thing, I've brought this up, but the only other thing that's ever made my blood run as cold as the Nixon thing was I was hearing an interview with Penn Jillette about Trump because he'd been on Celebrity Apprentice twice. And they were asking him, what's Trump like? And he's like, he's kind of like how you see him. Like, he really is that person. He just talks unfiltered constantly. And they asked, well, was there anything, like, notable about him? And he said that, like, well, there were two things that were a little upsetting. And he said that the whole time, and he said they would be stuck in rooms with Donald Trump for hours. And this would be something that would be edited down to, like, 20 minutes of television, right? But he would just ramble for hours to his captive audience because it was Celebrity Apprentice. And he said in those hours of sitting there with him, Trump never laughed at a joke in earnest. He never had, like, you know, like when you, like a natural laugh.
Yeah.
He never laughed, and he never admitted to a piece of music he liked. He never mentioned liking any music, ever. And I don't know what it is about that, but that really upsets me.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's that dude doesn't live a life that isn't, like, manufactured. Like, again, like, who he is who he is. We all know it. We all see it. Penn Jillette hit the nail on the head. But it's like a manufactured idea of his idea of power and wealth and not respectability. I bet he thinks it's respectability, but it's not that. It's he doesn't have, like, a life. He doesn't, like, live. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he's alive, but there's no
real
human there. There's a humanity.
There's a
there.
real emptiness to him.
Yeah.
You know?
Like I was just saying, like Nixon and Adolf Hitler, you know, human beings doesn't mean anything positive. you know? But, like, I think maybe there was, like, there's just something about those people in power, those three specifically that we have discussed now, they're just they don't have a life that's lived. You know, like at a certain point they're just so detached from the actual human existence because of their inhumane actions.
And I will say, I think film fans gravitate towards these, like, deep, probing explorations of, like, these evil men's souls, right? Mm-hmm. That, like, we're going to get to the heart of it. And then, like, the heart of this one is that, like, Nixon had a rough childhood and he's kind of fucked up from it, right? Like, that's about as deep as this movie ultimately gets.
Yeah.
And I think the truth is sometimes there's just not a lot there, and there's not a lot that makes these people complicated. And I think that's why partly why Vice wasn't well received, because Vice never bothers to try and explain why Dick Cheney is the way he is. It just shows him as he is, which is what I kind of admire about it. But there's no attempt to, like, reconcile, like, well, he came from this, and this is what led to that, and this is what's really going on below the surface. Because I don't think, A, there's that much there, and B, it's that interesting. But ultimately, that's what makes them a little more frightening, that there are these people like that who are kind of hollow, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's the takeaway I get from people like Nixon, like Dick Cheney, and like Donald Trump. Like, the real, if there's any, you know, evil, whatever you want to call it, if there's anything close to that in the world, I think it's that sort of weird emptiness that some people have. That it's sad that what led them to that, but it's also like they can end up being very damaging people sometimes. And it says a lot that our society seems to really lead to people like that ending up in powerful positions.
Mm-hmm.
So take away from that what you will.
Yeah, and we can rest slightly easier that 2 out of the 3 horrible people we mentioned are dead. Hopefully a third one on the way. Nixon and Adolf Hitler are dead, yes.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah, Hitler. I thought I mentioned Nixon, Trump, and Cheney.
Oh, well, Cheney and Trump are still with us.
Yeah. Cheney, another one where it's like, how the fuck is that guy still alive?
I think we should get those 2 and Kissinger in a room together. That's all I'm going to say. Just get them in a room together.
Dick Cheney shot a guy in the face.
Yeah, but put those 3 living people in a room together. Give Cheney a loaded weapon. And just see what happens.
What a wacky country we live in. Yep.
Yeah, that was Nixon, mostly.
That was Nixon. That was also Hunter S. Thompson yelling about Nixon.
Yeah. There you go, under 6 hours this time.
Yeah. So we did about half the length of the JFK one. And there will be a lot of edits because there were some pauses in between.
Yeah, so that'll help.
Yeah.
Nixon, thanks for doing this, Matt. Let me plug in the numbers for the next retrospective.
Oh boy, what will it be?
Okay. Because we got... Let's see, because one of them we might change... So I'm not gonna.
We haven't decided yet.
We haven't decided on one of them. But for what we have present,
we also found out we have one free slot basically. So
yeah, well that's the one I was referring to.
Yeah.
The other one you mentioned this morning you swapped out for.
Yeah.
Good quality suggestion. Let's see if that's next. Actually.
All right. Yeah.
That is not next. What is next is Ridley Scott's The Counselor.
Hell yeah, motherfucker!
All right.
I can't wait.
Yeah. So
that's gonna be
everyone rewatch The Counselor.
Everyone get out your 4K copies of The Counselor. That thing hasn't been released on 4K.
Has it? Hasn't it? Let me see.
It has. Who would release it?
The Counselor. No. But there's the unrated extended cut on Blu-ray.
Yes, there is, which I own.
Same. Okay, perfect.
More monologues about poetry.
Fantastic. We will talk about Cormac McCarthy and Ridley Scott's collaboration.
Cormac McCarthy pulling a prank on everyone. Fascinating movie. Can't wait.
Yeah, so good luck, everyone. We'll see you
also, maybe watch
week.
When you're in like a mood or something. I don't know. Kind of a dark movie.
Yeah. My recommendation for those that haven't seen it, just understand that it's a movie that wants you to kind of hate it. That sounds weird, but just go with it.
No Country for Old Men, but with no redeeming qualities.
Kind of, yeah.
So, and then that's The Counselor.
Yeah. That's a Cormac McCarthy script.
Yeah.
We get to talk about Blood Meridian again.
Yes, we do.
All right. Until then, we don't have to do our plugs because we have a weird relationship with social media at the moment. But links...
Yeah, we really don't know because Twitter is currently being run by its very own Nixon.
Yes. So links down in the descriptions to all the episodes and our links, all that jazz. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. If you didn't like this, like and subscribe anyways, because you might find something you do like. And thank you, Matt, for joining me again and for not making this as long as JFK.
Yeah. I think I would have gone insane, too, had it been that long.
Yeah. No. I'm not like exhausted by the end of this one, which is nice. So... again, thanks everyone for listening. We have been professionally unprofessional.
I'm not a crook.
Sock it to me.